Well, guys, I have to be honest. It has been a hell of a fucking week. So fuck it. I'm going down to South Park. Gonna have myself a time.
Are there friendly faces everywhere?
Humble folks without temptation. I'm going up down to South Park. I'm going down to South Park. Going to leave my woes behind.
Have a parking day or night and people shouting, "Howdy, neighbor."
I'm heading down to South Park. Going to let myself unwind. So come on down to South Park and meet some friends of mine. Welcome to So to Speak. I'm Evan Mead.
And I'm Cody.
Wait a minute, you're not Lyle. And this isn't the Android Dungeon. What's going on? Okay, so we got a bit of a change of pace here. Lyle, he's taking a break this episode. He doesn't have a whole lot to say about South Park. In fact,
What? Oh, geez, I hope he doesn't go on a rant like what I did on the Family Guy episode.
Well, Lyle, if you do want to say anything, now's the time.
Hello, gentlemen. This is Lyle. Thanks for giving me a spotlight. I don't really have the biggest opinion of South Park. I didn't really grow up on it, unlike a lot of shows we talk about on this channel. My parents basically forbid me from ever watching it. And for the most part, I haven't kept up with it even in my adulthood. I've watched a few episodes here and there, but there's only like a handful that I really would say that are my favorites. Like, I like the one where Officer Barb Brady has to do some detective work and find out why there's this random guy who's been sexually assaulting chickens. And when he finally catches the guy, the guy's like, "Oh yes, only by fucking chickens could I get Officer Barb Brady to understand the magic of reading." By fucking chickens? Yes. I was like that. They don't use Officer Barb Brady anymore, I guess, because the ACAB and all that. But one episode that I absolutely love that Cody would probably find horrifically gross is that there's the episode where all the boys go to Kenny's house for a sleepover, but it's all under a pretense that Kenny has chicken pox. So the parents organize the thing for them. And they all get chicken pox. They all deal with it in their own ways. Like, Cartman bathes himself in calamine lotion. And when they find out that the parents did that intentionally, that they got him sick intentionally, they hire a prostitute to touch everything in the house that belongs to their parents, and all their parents get herpes. Just terrible shit. I think I like the early stuff with South Park the most because the crude animation perfectly complemented the crude humor. I know nowadays, like, a lot of the episodes are trying to have, like, a hot take every single time, or they're trying to have social commentary every single time. I don't know, I just found the early episodes to be a lot more, I found them, like, a bit more, like, entertaining in sort of a crappy sort of way. I don't know how to best say it. I still haven't seen things like Imagination Land or stuff like that, but I do like the episode where they do like the World of Warcraft parody where they're like stuck in their basements for like days on end and they all get like gross. Oh, I also like the one where Kyle's brother, his little brother has like sex with his kindergarten teacher and they have like an affair. And the cops are just like, nice. Because I'm sure that's everyone's like prepubescent fantasy to get with a teacher, but they like take it to the nth degree in that episode. That's another one I like. And of course, I love the movie. It's classic. I know you guys are going to talk about it endlessly, so I will not divulge, but it is one of the best animated films to ever be based on a television show. I'm actually very surprised they made it so early on in the show's run. And I think the only other tidbit I have left is I did play one of the video games, South Park Fractured Butthole. And I liked it. It was kind of like Earthbound. So you get to run around this open world inside the town of South Park. It was kind of fun. I guess if I had to pick a favorite character, I like Cartman the most. Like, I quote him the most. I know he's awful, but I can't stop laughing at every horrible thing he does to people and every terrible thing he says. So, yeah, that's all I really have to say about South Park. You guys go on for 2 hours, and I go on for 4 minutes. So, uh, have fun with that.
Thank you, Lyle. And I guess we'll just take it from here.
I mean, nothing will ever top my rant, but he said some positive things about it.
Oh, you know what? Like, oh man, that your little rant from the Family Guy episode. We'll get to them later, but oh man, I feel like you're gonna love some of the stuff I'm gonna say, like just contrasted with every other show that I watch. So, as you may have guessed from our little like read through of the Primus lyrics, we're gonna talk about South Park tonight.
Hell yeah, we finally got here.
Despite this isn't a pop, this is still so to speak. It's not pop talk, but you're gonna have to do most of the talking because you've seen more of South Park than I have, dude. Like, cause
so before doing this podcast, you're saying that you guys were gonna have South Park slated as like what is this now?
This is the 90th episode.
Yeah.
Because
did you have any experience with this show actually prior to this?
Okay, so maybe we should go back to before we talk about like the history of the show and all that. Let's go back to like how we were first exposed to it. So
I believe we are similar if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so here's the thing. I first learned that South Park existed because my mom had a guy friend who had plushies of the 4 boys.
Oh, cool.
And I was thinking, okay, what's this? It's a cartoon. And I'm like, I was I was familiar with cartoons, like, but it was like, how come I've never like seen this on TV? And how come like I see these characters, but I just never seen this show?
Because you don't stay up super late.
That's right. Because as it turns out, but here's the thing. So I never actually saw any episodes of South Park for a couple reasons. One, if it's like part of what I'm gonna call later the holy trinity of like animated adult entertainment, then it's not on at appropriate viewing hours for kids under the age of 16, for kids under the age of 14. So, and not only that, my family had a basic cable package my whole life, so we never got at my mom's and even my dad's, we never had Comedy Central. So, I first discovered the comedic South Park was a show that I discovered not by watching it on TV, but through YouTube clips, because YouTube was created in 2005 and I discovered YouTube in late 2006. And in late 2007, early 2008, I would like be clicking like random stuff. Like I would watch like Halo Machinima. That was the first stuff I watched on YouTube, like Red versus Blue and stuff. Yep. And then there were a couple of like fan videos where people would make Halo Machinima with South Park voice clips edited over them.
Oh, that's funny.
And what was even funnier was, I'll never forget this. There was this dumb Lion Park video where it's like dialogue from South Park over Lion King characters. Like, you'd have Simba going like, "Hey, don't call me fat, you fucking Jew." Like, oh God. By the way, full disclosure, this is probably the most profane we're ever going to be on this show.
Oh well, no, we're just reciting. That's all.
So we're reciting, yeah.
No agendas, no personal grievances towards anybody.
Exactly.
We have the geniuses that are Trey Parker and Matt Stone to project your anger onto.
And one of the first clips I ever heard was that, and I saw this PowerPoint video, because PowerPoint presentations got uploaded to YouTube in the early days, to the tune of Uncle Fucker from the movie.
Hell yeah.
And I'm like, what is this? And then as soon as I start putting the pieces together that this is South Park, I still didn't have basic cable, but even then, I was about 15 years old, and at that point in my life, The Simpsons was barely allowed to be watched by me. Family Guy was forbidden, so South Park was really forbidden.
Oh, yeah.
Like, South Park was like, you're not watching that. But then, when I was 16, and my mom was dating my stepdad for about a year at this point, it turns out that he is a huge fan of South Park. And one night, for family movie night, he brings over the movie and...
All right. I'll pause. Let's pause right here.
Perfect place to pause.
This is the perfect place because I knew it. I knew from
my stepdad. I discovered it. I discovered South Park through YouTube, but my stepdad is the one who like popped my cherry
with South Park. Yeah,
yeah.
That's so funny you say. Like I knew from like our past conversations you had mentioned. I don't know if it was you or a friend, but it's you that mentioned that you as well. Your introduction to South Park was the film.
Yeah,
mine as well.
Nice.
Because it's weird, dude. My history with South Park was okay. First of all, my parents, specifically my mother, hates this show. Okay. Like she despises it. She says the animation is shitty. She says it's everything about it's just ugly. She's always
must resist joke about comparing Cody's mom to Kyle's mom.
Oh, that's the brilliant part of it. That's the brilliant part that I'm leading up to actually, because it was actually like, you know, like what's the word? Kind of like sorry, I'm having like a brain fuck right now. That her perception on the show was actually like rubbing off on me to a certain point where I was young, and where anytime I see like a photo or anything of like Eric Cartman, it's like, ooh, that's that bad.
That's
show.
forbidden.
That's the, you know, like
it's the forbidden fruit.
You just can't, like, you know. But I was not curious or you know, kind of like feeling enticing to want to watch it, whatever.
Yeah.
Until years later, when like my family and we all had like our, you know, usual family PC computer that we'd share. And
I remember I had one of those too at my mom's.
And you said 2005 was like kind of like when you were watching the YouTube
2006
stuff?
2007 2008.
So right around that exact same time, like I used illegally, which was called back then, LimeWire.
Oh, that program that, you know, rapes your family computer.
Basically.
Yeah.
I look back going, oh, that's why it got repaired 7 times. Because I used it so much to download music. And then the only movie that I recall that was available to watch on LimeWire was South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut.
Oh, yeah.
And, or Bigger, Louder?
Bigger, Longer.
Longer, sorry. Yeah. And I always just call it the South Park movie. Or South Park movie.
I do too. And I was going to talk about this later, but when I saw the title, it initially of the South Park movie, it initially threw me because I was like, South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. Is this an extended version of like what they couldn't show in the theater, or is this? But no. Apparently, it is deliberately. The movie was titled that way since the beginning, and the MPAA rejected their initial title. It was going to be called South Park: All Hell Breaks Loose. Because despite the fact that there are movies called Hellboy and Drag Me to Hell, the MPAA in the late 90s had a real like problem with the word hell in a movie title, so they nixed that. And despite the MPAA, Trey Parker and Matt Stone gave it like a phallic tinge to the title. Like, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut.
Right,
like,
that was their it's genius.
So,
but before I watched the movie, like I remember thinking like, okay, there was one time just in osmosis that I captured an episode on TV of South Park where, and I don't even remember what the name of the episode was, but they were trying to like figure out if like piss was a curse word. So they go to like these like tombs and they're trying to figure it out on all the scrolls if like it's piss is considered a.
Oh yeah.
So very earlier on I was like thinking, the show is creating a certain debate.
Yeah.
It's something that the show becomes very familiar of like trying to like come up with like social dilemmas or social like commentaries like us like in real life would have, but they like to just blow it completely out of proportion.
And I think the fact that the demographic they chose for main characters kind of adds to it, because with other shows they tell it from these kind of jokes you're used to hearing it from like young adults or teenagers. It's kids.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes it even better.
Well, let's, now that we're kind of like at the same point where like our introduction was the film, we'll get into the film in a second, but why don't we just like talk a little bit about like how this began with the two guys, Trey Parker and Matt Stone.
Trey Parker and Matt Stone. Yeah. All I know is that they both created like a little felt art project that got into an animation festival, and it was kind of like
the spirit of Christmas. I think
that's the one. Yeah, yes,
that was now where it was all crude and made out of construction paper. Yeah. It was all stop motion animation.
Yeah,
I've seen it.
I've seen snippets of
cruddy.
it.
But
yeah, but the animation's a little crampy.
yeah. But it definitely is like a precursor to their style and their kind of like sense of humor essentially. Because eventually, like when they were pitching it to everybody, like MTV and like eventually Comedy Central gave them a shot, and then like the pilot was Cartman gets anal probe.
Yeah. Just okay, compare that to like other pilots. Like other pilots are typically like, to the point titles. Nah, this shit tells you exactly what kind of a show it's going to be from the get-go. Like,
but what's so great is that like the show, like the first few seasons, I'll say, before they started to like actually like, talk a little bit more about like what's going on socially and like what's going on in the world and all that, like and it always hit at the perfect moment too. It wasn't like super late in the game like how Simpsons always did it, right? Where it's
I kind of want to save the comparisons to like, because I want to save the comparisons to Simpsons and Family Guy later. Because those show does tackle both, but we'll get to that.
The first few seasons I found were very like kind of just very like juvenile and very like kind of loud, and it didn't really have a lot to say. But until like later seasons, with the writing and the animation just got better.
So at what point? And that's how it is with most shows. Where it's like,
for me personally, between season 5 to season 10.
Okay.
Are the best of South Park.
Okay, fair enough.
Because season 6 specifically is every fucking episode hits.
Okay, fair
enough.
enough.
I love season 6.
The thing is, you may have seen more of the show than I have, because to be completely honest, like for the longest time I would refuse comment on the show because I only knew about the movie. But this past like week or so, I just got a little.
You went nuts, right?
I got a subscription to Paramount Plus, and it was kind of like, I'm not gonna go into details on like what's happening with my life right now, but like, it was a nice, as crude as it was a decent distraction and a decent escape. Right. That's why when I said in the intro, like, it's been a week, I am not fucking kidding. It has been a week. So I'm telling myself, okay, like, I'm going down. That's why, like, so the South Park, it might get to a point where I just download the Primus track. If I'm feeling glum, I'll just play the song. Like, I'm going to leave my woes behind. Because it's like, how is a show that, takes, like, gore humor, piss jokes, fart jokes, and poop jokes to the max? How does that, like, kind of give me a sense of resonance? And I typically hate that humor, which is why, like, I think, I'm like, if we're going to, like, Cody, if you and I are gonna have dinner together and like watch something, never South Park, because I'll get queasy if I watch.
Yeah, there's some pretty gross ones I remember.
Extremely, yeah.
I agree. Paramount Plus actually specifically is the best way to watch this show now, because I have a subscription as well, and I noticed that like they don't beep out anything.
They don't bleep out stuff.
Yeah, it's totally uncensored, because on both Comedy Central and just on the DVDs, even on the DVDs, I can't believe it. Like, that's uncensored. Okay, sorry, they were always censored. I'm not an expert, but I suspect that the network made them do that, or else. Yeah. But I don't understand, like, because it's like the point of a DVD is to get the full experience of the show that you wouldn't otherwise. Like, because when I get like another show on DVD, like for example, like, you're going to talk about this on Pop Talk, but you own all of Lost on DVD. You're telling me that like the DVD has subtitles that weren't like this DVD has subtitled, like when the characters are speaking a foreign language, sometimes bits of what they're speaking are subtitled on the DVD that weren't like when on the show was watching live. Or maybe I'm getting that backwards. Maybe Disney Plus. You have it backwards. I think the coding of certain streaming services with shows just completely get it fucking wrong when it comes to subtitles of foreign languages.
Yes,
and it drives me nuts, because when I was watching those couple episodes of Lost with you, I was like baffled. I'm like, what the fuck? You're not gonna know what the hell they're saying, or that's not what they're saying,
and I really
or it's saying they're speaking in Latin or whatever. I'm like, no, that's French. What the fuck?
Like,
it's so stupid.
By the way, Disney Plus will have, like, not to knock streaming services, but Disney Plus will have blatant subtitle errors once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
There will be legit typos in subtitles, and extra letters. I'm like, did
All
the
that
scribers
money-
get lazy?
All that money putting towards that, and they can't even get their coding right. Oh my god.
Yeah.
But speaking of DVDs, I don't have it anymore. I think something might have happened to it. But I didn't have seasons of South Park on DVD. But I had South Park The Hits Volume 1. And
Wow.
this exposed, like, after, I know we'll talk about the film, but after, when I was like, I love this film, and now I get what South Park is, I'm going to watch tons of episodes.
Yeah.
I remember picking this up at Best Buy one day, and it had like a few dozen episodes on it that are a shared compilation of like fan favorites and Trey and Matt's favorites as well. And and looking back on it, like researching, like, oh, what are the best episodes of South Park? It's like I watched it all.
Yeah.
I literally, like, I hold this DVD, The Hits Volume 1.
No.
I think they only it was only one volume. They didn't release 2 or 3.
No.
I hold that, like, thank you so much for like getting me the gist and the bulk of this show almost.
Now, can we talk about so we talked about the pilot, and so Carmen gets an anal probe. There's a fun fact that I am 99.9% sure you were aware. That was because the pilots get that, they just pitched that to Comedy Central, but to this day the pilot is the only episode where they animated purely by felt, and it's the only episode in the whole show not edited on a computer.
And also to add to that, it's the only one that is still in its original 4.3 aspect ratio.
Oh yeah,
because all the other ones are now been converted, especially on Paramount Plus. It's all been 16.9. That's the only one that they can't actually like stretch out, or else you'll wind up looking like very, kind of distorted almost.
Yeah, and that's another issue that the streaming services have had just with other shows.
Yeah.
Like
I'm happy eventually Disney Plus fixed the Simpsons.
yes,
shit, but that's a different story.
With that,
you're
entire
losing jokes.
Entire jokes don't work.
The Duff light and the Duff.
The stock footage film festival, like that. If you change the aspect ratio, that joke is gone. Yeah. So in terms of talking about, so before we get into like noteworthy episodes, like,
well, let's touch on the movie.
Well, can we talk about the characters first? Like,
oh sure, yeah.
If with any movie, you gotta have plot and you gotta have characters. So
the show is basically about the 4 main boys in this Colorado town in the mountains. And
the town is called South Park.
The town is called South Park, Colorado, and we follow these 4 boys, 8-year-old boys. Eric Cartman.
Can I be honest?
And
the first time I was ever introduced to South Park, it's okay. I'm a little confused by their age because you said they're 8. They apparently are in the 4th grade.
Yeah.
But when the thing that kind of throws me off is if you're in 4th grade, you're 9-10 years old. In third grade is more 8-9 years old. Second grade is 7-8 years old.
Unless they don't have like senior kindergarten or
that's true, I guess. But yeah, so maybe the schooling system's different in the U.S. But whatever the case, they're 8.
Yeah,
which is hilarious because they're the same kids. They're the same age as the kids in. And now back to Arthur.
Oh, there you go.
There's our little time. Done.
Ding.
It's not so to speak if we don't tie back to Arthur.
Well, when's the SpongeBob? Oh, there we go. I already said SpongeBob. Yeah. So
oh god.
We got the Simpsons. Well, Arthur.
I was going to. Here's how I can tie it into SpongeBob. Because you remember how like Steven Hillenburg like drew just like his C animation at an anime festival, and then like the creatives at Nickelodeon saw it and loved it, and they gave him a chance to pitch SpongeBob to them. So it's kind of a similar thing with Trey Parker and Matt Stone. Their felt Christmas special like just got them where they are now.
Yeah.
Now, so
there's Eric Cartman.
Okay.
Who's like the heavyweight, loud, just the worst human. Can I want to read this off actually. Someone pointed out all the crimes that he's committed in this show.
Yes.
Can I read them off actually?
Did you watch the Channel Federator video where in Channel Federator they said Cartman has been to jail for three different times.
He's been to jail 6 times.
Oh yeah, but he's committed like at least 50 crimes. Let's hear it.
Arson. Prostitution.
Yep.
Enforced cannibalism. Attempted genocide. Manslaughter. Animal abuse. Hate crimes. Grave robbery. war crimes, child abuse, vandalism, theft, privacy, embezzlement. No, sorry, not privacy. Piracy,
Yeah.
shoplifting, terrorism, drug possession, smuggling, armed robbery, and rape and murder.
Sounds about right.
He's done it all. And
If there is a crime, Eric Cartman has likely committed it. Now, intriguingly enough, out of the four boys, he is the only boy who they consistently call out his last name instead of his first.
Right.
His mother is the only person who like calls him by his first name, which
Yeah.
I never really understood that. Like they don't call like, you know, Kyle like Barflowski, or they don't call like Stan Marsh, or they don't call Kenny McCormick.
Yeah.
They just call Eric Cartman just Cartman. So.
yeah, well, okay, you just named all four of them just there.
Well,
so.
I mean, I want to talk. So,
That's it.
what's Cartman's home life like? Because their parents are just as big,
He has a mom that's very like
all over the place.
well, to say the least, but like his mom is very like spoils him.
Yeah,
Spoils him very not I wouldn't say like a helicopter mother, but she's very like
she's a latchkey mother.
She's very
latchkey, I think, is the word you're looking for.
latchkey, and as well as she's not too aware of like the true monster that Cartman really is.
She's totally Okay, there's one episode I'm going to get to later that really highlights what kind of... I could sum up. There's a joke in one of my favorite episodes that highlights just what kind of mother she is. I'm not... In Make Love, Not Warcraft, I think I know what kind of... the joke, like, Mom, bathroom!
Oh,
He's such
my
a
God.
big boy!
One of the hardest I've ever laughed in my entire life. I'm not kidding. I know we're
We're getting ahead of
if
ourselves.
If you're bringing up that moment, that's one of the hardest I've ever laughed in my entire
Seriously?
life. I'm
Yeah.
not kidding. I was.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Oh, God.
But then there's Stan Marsh, who, or Stan Darsh, if you've seen the Aspen episode. Anyway,
I didn't get to that one, but yeah.
that's okay. He's actually one of the more level-headed guys in the group.
He is.
Like anytime there's like an argument specifically between Kyle and Eric, like he's always the one that kind of breaks it up, and he's always like kind of like the more observant and like well-headed kind of guy.
Yeah.
And with Kyle, it's like Kyle always means well, but like he just doesn't have the patience at all of Cartman.
He really
like,
doesn't.
I just they clash so much, and I just noticed that even in real life with friends. I'm like, why are you guys friends? Why you guys hang out? Like just outcast the one that's obviously the most problematic. Like, please. And then there's Kenny. Okay, moving on. Kenny.
Oh my God, Cody! You killed Kenny.
You
bastard.
Kenny. I mean,
Kenny McCormick. Yeah.
well, the reoccurring thing that you alluded to is that specifically the early seasons.
He dies
every episode,
constantly.
He dies every episode, and there's always a oh my god.
In
he
the
killed Kenny
pilot,
episode.
he actually dies a pretty gruesome death. Like his corpse is just... I love how the boys are at the bus stop and his corpse is like being consumed by rats and his head is like rolling around. And,
But
like,
you never see his face. You never hear him talk.
unless
He's always wrapped up his hood, and he tightens the ropes on the hood.
Now, do you know the history behind Kenny, the character, like who he's based on? He's okay. Trey Parker and Matt. One of the... I don't know if Trey... okay. I'm more familiar with like the personal lives of other showrunners than I am with Trey and Matt. I just know that they were like they got together like as friends in high school, and they've been kind of inseparable ever since. I think they may have met earlier, but I'm not sure. But apparently,
sure, yeah.
At some point in one of their lives, they had a classmate named Kenny who was the poorest kid in their neighborhood. He constantly wore a hooded parka and concealed his face. And because he skipped school so much, his classmates would joke, "Oh, did Kenny die?" So that's the history behind why Kenny is always like dead. Or...
what's what's Cartman's mom name again?
I think it's I don't know if it's like Linda or... By the way, we forgot to mention, where's Cartman's father?
Oh, well, that's kind of up to debate.
Yeah.
Because his mother is his father, and that's kind of in canon.
No.
In some way.
It's not true. That's impossible.
But I was trying to remember her name, but like basically I read that Trey walked in on one of his ex-girlfriends cheating on him.
Yes!
And he named her.
Yes,
after,
that's.
Yeah, I'm so bad. I'm forgetting her name, but
I'm gonna look this up right now.
Okay. But also, like, I mean, we can't go over every character.
Oh yeah, no,
it's like The Simpsons. There's a community, like, there's a lot of people to cover. But like, I'll say noteworthy runner-ups. There's like you got Butters.
Leanne,
thank you.
Leanne Cartman.
Leanne, thank you. Yeah, her name
Now,
is Leanne.
can we talk about the parents? So let's talk about the parents. There's with Kyle. There's his mother Sheila and his father Gerald.
Yep.
With Stan, I think Stan's parents are there's
Randy Marsh.
Randy Marsh,
one of the best
Yeah.
He gets better as the show gets on.
He really does.
He gets way more screen time. He's one of the funniest characters on the whole show.
He is.
And then the later you go into the show, he gets so much funnier.
And then there's
he's practically a main character
now. And then there's Kenny's parents who
God.
are. They're kind of like trailer trash, if I'm being honest. Like they're clearly impoverished. They're a bit neglectful. Like
yeah.
I mean, if your son's dying in every episode, at what point does Children's Aid get involved?
But then
we can't bring logic into this shit.
But then at school, there's Mr. Mackey. There's
Mr. and then later Mrs. Garrison.
Mr. and Mrs. Garrison.
Mr. and Mrs.
Right?
Garrison. There's the principal who. Oh, and then there's
no. Mukay, sorry, Mr. Mackey.
That's Mr. Mackey.
Mr. Mackey
and
is not the principal. He's
the school counselor.
Counselor, yeah.
And then there's Mr. and Mrs. Garrison. There's Chef.
Hello there, children.
Hello there, children.
Voiced by the late great
Isaac Hayes.
Isaac Hayes. Sorry, I was going to say Oscar Hayes.
Isaac
Hayes.
Yeah.
He's
great.
He was always a great staple.
Yeah.
But then there's like Butters.
Yeah,
fun fact. Butters didn't come up until season. He got his own episode.
Yes.
At the end of season 4 or 5, I forget his. But that's.
I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, Trey and Matt really started to see potential and love this character just because of how such a goody two shoes and anxious ball that he is. They just felt like there was so much more to his potential, and I'm so happy because he's such a because eventually when they did kill off Kenny when he was out of the show for a while, Butters was essentially the replacement.
When I watched a couple episodes, I did notice that Butters was in Kenny's place. Yep. And on that note, here's a little bit of because I'm a sucker for pointless trivia. Here's what I know. Do you know that at some point in the show's development, the creators thought that Kyle and Stan were kind of interchangeable with each other? Yep. There are subtle differences in their personality, and there is one episode that really highlights that, which I'll get into in a second. But they were going to kill off, I believe, Kyle and not Kenny, and they were going to replace him with Butters. And another fun fact about Butters, or two fun facts. Initially, they were going to his real name is Leopold.
Scotch.
Leopold Storch or
Scotch. I think it's Scotch.
Leopold Scotch.
Yeah.
Originally, they were going to name him not Butters, but Poof Poof. And apparently, at some point in the show's lore, it's established that his birthday is on September 11th.
Right.
Oops! There goes ad revenue.
Yeah. Actually, in the Osimo episode, he said that.
Yeah, his birthday is September.
He's like, "What's this present? My birthday is not till September 11th."
Oh God.
Oh my God. I mean. That's kind of, there's Tweak and Timmy and Jimmy,
Clyde.
Wendy, Clyde, Craig.
Craig is the guy.
Bebe. There's everybody.
Is Craig is Craig the kid who with the blue
hat?
The blue hat. Yeah. I just watched I watched a 2-parter episode where he was a prominent character.
Yep.
I'll get into that. Well, I feel like this is going to segue into we want to talk about the movie first, but
let's touch on the movie and then let's just go to town with episodes.
Okay, so going to the movie, the plot is okay. Oh, there's other characters. I mean, we could go through them all, but
there's
crucial characters we have to talk about before we get into the movie because these characters are the catalyst for the movie's conflict.
Well, early episodes ish, but they're not really prominent episodes.
Well,
they're prominent characters. I know who you're talking about.
Okay. So, in other shows, they are a show within a show. 2 very untalented actors from our home country of Canada. Terrence Henry Stute and Philip Niles Argyle. And they just create the show.
I did not know that was their full names.
I did. Oh, do you want to hear something even crazier? In my grade 10 math class, there were 2 black kids. with one was named Terrence, the other was named Philip. And that was the same year I saw the movie. And I remember telling like one of my friends about that. I'm like, there's like, if you've seen South Park, there's Terrence and Philip. Well, in our math class, there's Terrence and there's Philip. I'm like, should you ever tell them that? I never told them that, but I caught on to that. There were two black guys in my grade 10 math class named Terrence and Philip.
You don't want to go you don't want to like, just like insult anybody. It's just a coincidence.
It was a weird coincidence, but like just that they had a commonality. Like, Terrence and Philip are both Canadian. And
do you know who basically the real life Terrence and Philip are?
Who are they?
Kenny and Spenny.
That makes sense.
Yeah, have you seen Kenny vs. Spenny?
I've heard of it. I've never actually like.
Basically, if you're a fan of like South Park and even Jackass, it's like a hybrid.
Aren't they like so Kenny vs. Spenny? That's like a proud Canadian thing.
It's right? It's like two best friends that hate each other. They do competitions, and the loser does the humiliation.
So it's
absolutely trash cable television, but it's just.
So is it not like Because Letterkenny, I've seen a couple episodes that has a plot.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
Oh, you don't know what Letterkenny is?
No.
Oh, Lyle introduced it to me because, like, when I was...
is it with Kenny Hotz? The guy from...
No, it's just, like, I was looking into, like, Canadian talent and how Canadian comedy sort of feels, and Lyle was like, watch Letterkenny. Apparently, the beer that is brewed specifically for that show is a real beer that you can buy at the beer store, the LCBO.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so anyways...
So the movie, so Terrence and Philip, yeah.
The plot of the movie is these innocent little children it starts off with them, literally, they don't utter a single profanity till they go see the Terrence and Philip big screen extravaganza, Asses of Fire, and then...
They come out of the movie just... Oh my god.
Oh, that one song. Shut your fucking face, Uncle Fucker. You're a cocksucking ass licking Uncle Fucker. You're Uncle Fucker. Yes, it's turn around if Uncle's quite like you.
See, that's...
Sorry. We're going to sing all the songs if we have to go for it.
That is the great irony.
Yeah.
To me personally, where it's like I had a mother that did not want me to watch South Park, and the first exposure that I have of this is about a mother who didn't want to watch... Who didn't want to have her son watching this because she thought it was gross and cruel, and of course
nothing but foul language and toilet humor.
And of course, I wasn't like reciting lines of dialogue or something. I knew what swear words were before South Park. That wasn't my introduction. Did I. But what's so funny is that I love the meta commentary that's trying to portray, where it's like people get so hung up on like curse words. But violence and all that is okay.
Now,
it's like...
Do you remember how sometimes when you and I get into conversations about movies and comedy, like, not to go off topic at all, but when I watch Don't Look Up and I'm like, okay, I see what they're doing. And then you were saying, this is horrible. It's on the nose. South Park is super on the nose. But it works in a weird way.
I found that like the South Park movie worked as its own narrative, but you can also see the reflection of what they're trying to say about society.
Well, you know that if you translate the conflict of that movie into our real life, Terrence and Philip, the movie, is how the conservatives or the people who complain. That's how they view South Park.
That's why they wrote them in the show. By the way, like Terrence and Philip are based on people criticizing South Park for saying all it is fart jokes and bad animation.
Yeah.
So they're like, all right, well we're gonna
do you one better.
That. Yeah.
So this basic little plot about these innocent kids seeing a really smutty, naughty movie. They go back to school and when I was 16 years old, the scene where like they take it into the classroom and like, how would you like to go see the school counselor?
How would you like to suck my balls?
What did you say?
Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, what I said was,
with the fucking air horn.
The board.
Yeah.
How would you like to suck my balls, Mr. Garrison?
Holy shit, dude.
So like
that scene. My stepdad and I, after we saw that movie, my stepdad and I would quote that back to each other, and my mom would just be like laughing her ass off, like, Paul, like, what did you do to my kid? Well, swearing was a common part of my vernacular by the time I saw the movie, but it's like my mom and my stepdad and myself, we watched that movie for family movie night, and she was just beside herself.
That's
Me and my
great.
stepdad are laughing our asses off at all the
You're
jokes.
lucky you get to share that with your parents. My parents cannot stand.
Do you want
South
to?
Park at
Well,
all.
my mom is not going back to it at all because she can't stand the. But do you know, my mom, the scene where they get George Clooney in the best cameo ever.
Oh, is the doctor?
Where Kenny's over the top.
You recognize his voice right away,
Yeah,
too.
and do you know that George Clooney lobbied Trey
He
Matt?
loved the show.
He's a huge fan.
Yeah.
And he lobbied Trey and Matt for a cameo in anything they do, and that was his contribution.
That's right.
So Kenny dies through hijinks, and his death actually is a catalyst for just the movie just accelerating to the most extreme because Kenny. The kids getting corrupted by Terrence and Phillip leads to Kenny dying and going to heaven. Oops! I'm sorry. Hell!
Cue Metallica.
Little boy, you're going to hell!
I love how it's like population of heaven
There's
is
a
like
few hundred thousand.
a few thousand.
And the population of hell is 1 billion and
it's
climbing.
still going. It's still climbing.
That's great.
Fucking Metallica doing like a hell song and like
Hell isn't good.
Hell is oh my god.
That's the song.
It's
Hell isn't
so
good.
And
That was Metallica?
Dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Metallica.
Oh yeah.
And just the not audacity, I was gonna say just the fact that they can make us sympathize with the devil because he's in an abusive relationship with Saddam Hussein.
An abusive gay relationship.
Like they make us sympathize with the
With
devil, of how
Satan.
terrible Saddam is to him.
Okay.
And they just go to town belittling him, deservedly so. Whatever.
Do you know
I
that?
mean,
Okay.
I mean, it's clearly like America. Fuck yeah! Like
That that was a couple years later,
Yeah.
but Team America. Well, at the time, I saw that at the time of the movies. Like I saw the movie, Saddam Hussein was like dead for a year. But in the movie, when the movie was released, Saddam Hussein was alive and well. He was still the dictator of Iraq.
Right.
Oh, and for obvious reasons, that will come as a surprise to absolutely no one. Bigger, Longer, and Uncut was banned in Iraq pretty quickly.
Duh. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then the parents really They rally up. They're like, okay, we got to put a stop to like all this like stuff. So what should we blame? Should we blame the government
or blame
society?
Or should we blame the images on TV? No!
Blame Canada.
Blame Canada.
Nominated for an Oscar.
Oh,
can you believe that?
Yes, and at the ceremony in 2000, who better than to lead the chorus?
Robin Williams
singing Kyle's mother's lyrics.
That's great.
That's beautiful.
I mean, it's great. Well, the thing is about South Park the movie is it is a musical.
It is,
and you realize that a lot with like Trey Parker specifically, where he clearly loves musicals because like I mean eventually they'd write like a Tony Award winning Broadway play of the Book of Mormon.
Oh yeah.
Like he clearly and he writes.
Okay.
He's the one who's credited as writing all the songs throughout the show.
Just a bit of a side tangent, not just very quickly.
Yeah.
Do you, in terms of like Trey Parker and Matt Stone's ability to recreate media like almost like very fluently.
Yeah.
It's quite brilliant. I'll get into that in one of the episodes I want to mention, but do you know that they actually Trey and Matt got their hands on a leaked script for The Day After Tomorrow before the movie was due in theaters, and they had just enough time. They were going to make a follow-up to Team America World Police where they recreated the entirety of The Day After Tomorrow with marionettes. And they initially wanted to release it on the same day as The Day After Tomorrow actual. It never went through, but it was a project that they set out to do, but they couldn't do. But these guys got their hands on a leaked script for The Day After Tomorrow. They almost recreated the whole thing with marionettes and their goal was to release it on the same day as the movie.
Right. Yeah.
To siphon the box office money away from that, but it never came to fruition.
Eventually they did do that episode 2 days before The Day After Tomorrow.
Yes, I watched that.
Yeah.
But so back to the movie. So the absolute extreme is this organization which censors everything. Like they take I don't know if
Mothers Against Canadians.
Mothers Against Canada. So which is I thought that was a play on MAD, which is a Canadian organization, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. So
I think it is.
Yeah. So but anyway,
it probably is.
But anyway, so do you know that there's a little joke that I caught in the Blame Canada song sequence, they put a banner like saying, "Oh, we're gonna re-release the Terrence and Phillip Asses of Fire movie," but the censored cut that cuts out all the garbage is like it takes like a 3-hour movie and cuts it down to just 15 minutes. Because it goes to show the power of censorship and like what gets cut out when.
Yeah, 3 hours later they're watching this movie.
How is a movie like that 3 hours long?
The part that killed me the most is when like the kids are watching the movie the first time and they're really into it and everybody else is appalled. They're getting up.
They're walking out of the theater.
One woman was like, "Oh, this is so awful." And
then what do you expect?
They're Canadian. I fucking love that.
It's great to laugh at yourself. Well,
that I'm happy that the movie was the first thing, because if I can laugh at myself, then you got to have thick skin to watch South Park.
You really do.
You do.
But so then going back to the plot, just to kind of wrap this up.
Yeah.
You know how you said that Kenny dies and he goes to hell, where he meets Satan and Saddam Hussein, right. and he sees their relationship. The two come together where the U.S., as a result of Canadian media being censored in the United States, Canada attacks the U.S. in a really funny way.
They killed the Baldwins.
Not the Baldwins! And as a result, the most unlikely scenario of all, in the context of international relations, the most unlikely of unlikely scenarios happen. The U.S. declares war on our true north, strong and free.
And they want to assassinate Terrence and Phillip.
Yeah, no, they take Terrence and Phillip as political prisoners, and their plan is, we're gonna execute them live for a USO show.
Yeah.
And that's gonna prove that apparently their execution is going to be like the thing that just purifies all. Like, you're gonna kill people who corrupted the youth of America. Like,
yeah.
I mean, there's a few people in your own country who you could start with, but just kill the foreigners, right? And the end comes, the two plots of like the hell plot and the Up on Earth plot, they coincide in a really funny way.
Yeah.
And it's actually Kenny talking some sense into the devil himself that saves all of humanity from eternal damnation.
And I know that like this was our first watch of South Park, and really like there were only like 2.5 seasons in, and then they did a movie.
Okay, yeah.
But the impact of seeing Kenny's face probably would have been a little bit more impactful to certain fans who had watched 2.5 seasons at that time. But that was a neat little thing they did at the end.
I noticed that, yeah. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the only time in this history of either the show or the movie that they've shown Kenny's face.
It is, yep.
Okay, makes sense.
You may see the back of his head a few times.
And it looks all grisly. He looks kind of like a hunchback when he doesn't have his coat on.
Yeah. Like blonde hair. Yeah.
One of the things you actually, in the show, you actually see like, a lot of the primary characters nude or partially nude quite a bit, and they don't like try to purify their bodies. Like, they show like little hickeys. They show like stretch marks, and it's kind of like, I think there's some subtle message about like anti-body shaming going on. Maybe I'm reading too much into that, but I just noticed that. And so just to kind of wrap things up, you remember how like a couple recordings ago remember how the time I told you what it was like for me to see The Lion King in the theaters? I was 7 when this movie hit theaters in 1999, so my parents are not taking me to see this shit.
Of course not.
But my stepfather was in his late 30s when this came out, and he was telling me stories about what it was like to watch this movie in a packed theater. And I'll tell you this, the stories he always told me that made the audience laugh the hardest was this joke. The Windows 98 joke where the general just blows. Okay, you remember how like there's a glitch in the military holograms, like, and the general's like, it's fucking Windows 98. As soon as he said Windows 98, the audience just dies laughing.
That's great.
And then they bring in Bill Gates, and the general just blows his head off mid-sentence. According to my stepdad, when the general shot Bill Gates in the head, the audience screamed. And the reason why is because when that movie came out, Windows 98 was a fucking bitch of a software. It broke constantly, and everyone hated it. So I
watched a documentary about that.
Oh yeah. So to see Windows 98,
Shout out to Vice documentaries. I watch a lot of those.
Oh, that's cool. I do too. Okay, not to be confused with
On YouTube. The Vice channel. Yeah.
Vice. Yeah, no, they're good. But yeah, like and by the way, it was my stepdad who told me that the final confrontation between Eric and Cartman and Saddam Hussein, it actually in a clever way parallels and inverts Return of the Jedi at the same time, because Cartman gets through a series of events that I'll just go watch the movie and you'll understand. Through a series of plot related events, Eric gets the ability to electrocute whoever.
Fuck, shit, cock, ass, cock,
You want to talk about how that is one of the biggest laughs I've ever had at anything. Fuck, shit, cock. By the way, I was worried that once I'd seen that joke, I'm never gonna laugh that hard again. Nope, it still holds up. Every time I see that, I just die.
It's great.
And like, you got Saddam Hussein is getting electrocuted to death. He's like, come on, Satan, you weak, stupid, come back and save me. Satan's like, I've had enough of you. A la Vader to the Emperor, he chucks Saddam down the hole and Saddam dies.
Yeah, I love it.
So that's the movie.
There's so many great songs like
the big marathon at La Resistance.
How'd you spend your life addicted to smack? Homeless on the street giving hands
It's easy, guy.
Follow this plan and very soon you will say it's
easy, guy. Oh, and that's
what would Brian Botano do?
Oh, what was Brian Botano?
What would Brian Botano do if he was here right now? He'd pick up pen and follow through. That's what Brian Botano would do.
And he was in the Olympics skating for the gold.
He apparently loves it. He's like, well,
Brian Botano.
This is a part of my life now.
That's
everywhere
awesome.
he goes. He has to hear that, and he's like, well, I accept it.
If I ever meet Brian Botano, I will ask him, hey, what would you do?
And he'd be like, all right. Yeah.
No, it's probably
it's a part of his life.
No, it's probably like the way Harrison Ford hears Han shot first. It's like, I don't fucking care. Get on with it, losers. So
what's the song that opens and ends the movie?
Mountain Town.
We live in this quiet little mountain town.
Oh, and then I also like. Oh, another song I like is
Kyle's mom is the biggest bitch of the biggest bitch of the whole
wide world. The big old bitch of the actually big.
It becomes like a world where you see the giant world. It's all
talk to kids around the world. They might go a little something like this.
Stereotypes galore.
I mean, it's the racism of Cartman amplified times 5.
Oh, it's great. Yeah. I mean, this movie is good. It's good. It definitely is like a dose of what South Park really is. And
it's one of the funniest movies I've ever seen in my whole life.
It's solid. It definitely holds up. To go into like any other, because we're in an interesting thing where like now with the Paramount Plus thing, there's like almost like specials now. Not really movies, but specials. Like there's I won't go into them too much, but just a shout out to like the pandemic special and the vaccine special and recently the streaming wars 2-parter. I just watched those.
Now.
There's the post COVID and the return of COVID, which you kind of all have to watch. You have to watch the pandemic and the vaccine to understand those.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I read something that Trey and Matt, they signed like some sort of like 20 movie picture deal with them, like the Paramount Plus, to just keep cranking out specials like movies. I mean, at this point, now that they just recently, as of this recording, celebrated their 25th anniversary of the show, I think a new era with South Park on doing like kind of like specials and all that and keeping the comedy alive, but just in a different format is probably the wiser choice. Yeah. So I'd say, what's so funny? That my two friends, both Pat and Troy, are avid fans of this show. I think they've seen every episode actually.
Oh wow!
And when we talk about even if it's Simpsons or Family Guy, where we can definitely see a decline in quality, Pat and Troy confirmed this show has been consistently funny.
Wow!
Occasionally a couple of like dud episodes. I mean, sure, every show has that. One. Every show has that. But like, there's never been, everything has always been consistently fresh because like they just know how to like keep relevant. Did you watch 6 Days or Less?
No.
I think that's what it's called. No. It's okay. It's a little special Comedy Central thing about the making of a typical South Park episode. They can make a South Park episode in 6 fucking days.
Yeah, okay.
Writing, recording,
Yeah.
animation, all in 6 days.
Because that's why
That's incredible.
compared to other shows, South Park is one of the best because they're dead. They can do shows in a week. They have one of the most intense deadlines scheduled. Their crew
Watching it, they're stressing out. Like and then they're always like, should we write it this way? Should we write it that way? They got to go through what's that thing called?
pitching and
No, not pitching. It's the
conceptual storyboarding.
It's the censorship, the practices and
and the MP the screen focus groups or test screenings.
We're on the right track. Hang on.
I don't know how it works for TV. I know how it works for movies. With movies they have but movies aren't made in a week, man. Like
no, of course not. No.
But on that note, it truly fascinates me because considering that they do entire episodes in 6 days, what fascinates me is given that they have the most intense deadline schedule ever, but this is also what you need to know. Not only did that, they have only missed in their 20
standards and practices.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
What
Sorry.
What standards and practices?
Standards and practices is what I was saying about, like, that's what they have to clear things up on. Like, they'll be like, okay, can we make a joke about this or that? Is that going to be sensitive? Like, they have to, like, clear it with standards and practices.
Yeah.
So they have to go through that in the middle of a crunch time of 6 days. And they also have to tell their animators, like, all those animated directors, like, you got to edit it, make it this way. They got to record. And it's convenient for them just because it's Trey and Matt and probably a few of their friends because they do a lot of the voices.
And occasionally a guest star Isaac Hayes.
That too. And I didn't even know that until this recent little 6 day or less, whatever it was called. I thought Trey, when he does the voice of Cartman, I thought he actually goes like this all the time. He just talks and then they auto-tune it later on. They lower the pitch.
Oh, yeah? Because I was watching the Fun Fact video on South Park, and he does, like, the voice, like, in the studio. And,
really? Okay, the way I watched it, they actually, like, changed the pitch of his voice.
Okay, that maybe it's possible, but...
Okay.
So, on that note about their deadline...
Yeah, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. Their deadline... Okay, you think that given their tight crunch, they have only missed their deadline once in this show's history, and do you know what that was? In the blackout of 2003... That was the one time in the show's history where they missed their deadline because there was no power in the studio.
I remember that.
So, totally understandable. It's the one time in the show's history they missed their deadline. And another fun fact about their deadline: when the 2016 presidential election in the U.S. happened, do you know that they wrote the episode and thinking
Hillary
was going to win?
Yep.
So they wrote the plot, and according to that, when Trump won, they had to rewrite the whole script and redo the episode.
I've seen bits and pieces of season.
That's
20.
the one where Mr. Garrison is Trump.
Yeah. That's where the member berries thing.
The member berries, yeah.
That's now a household name.
Oh, yes.
With, like, talking about nostalgia and all that shit.
Yeah.
All right.
So
have we made our piece or anything? Can we get into episodes? Because this is what I'm excited about.
Okay, so let's talk about...
I didn't sound excited.
Okay, no, you sound excited. I'm excited. So so the pilot.
We're gonna go through every single episode.
No,
start with the pilot.
Let's start with the pilot. So,
I mean, it's fine. It's just
there's nothing. It's a standard pilot for a big show that has not come into its own yet.
And to be honest with you, if you want to talk about an episode where I feel like they kind of came into its own, it isn't until I would say like I'm actually just scrolling through the first 2 seasons right now.
Yeah.
And then now I'm on to season 3. I'm just trying to see which ones that kind of pop up. I mean, there's noteworthy early stuff, like there's the Chimpokemon. Did you watch that one?
No, I didn't get that.
This is like their whole play on like how kids are obsessed with Pokemon back then. They have the Chimpokemon, where they're obsessed with like these, like the way kids are obsessed with
Pokemon Go and Pokemon cards.
Trey and Matt were like, we don't get it. Kids are just like, we have to be like Pokemon masters and like collect them all. It's like, but why?
I see.
And the whole theme was on the fact we're basically feeding into just consumerism and just people getting rich.
Fad.
It's a fad. So Pokemon.
At the time that episode, they would have made that episode at the time that Pokemon cards and the Pokemon games were everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, cause I remember being in
It
my
was 1999. Was
yeah
Team Pokemon.
in 1999, I could go on the schoolyard at recess and find littered, discarded Pokemon cards. Although when Yu-Gi-Oh came on the scenes, it was extremely rare to find a lost Yu-Gi-Oh card, and if you ever did, like, you had to take it to the lost and found, because if it was a valuable card, actually, no, fuck that, I'm keeping a lost Yu-Gi-Oh card.
You know what I'm just noticing now?
What did you just notice?
And I didn't even think of this beforehand, but I'm looking at the episodes and the release dates, and it's fitting how it's like the 90s was The Simpsons. That was the era. And then when you get into the 2000s, this is when South Park became great, actually.
And debatably, and by the way, the difference, if we're going to talk about, because I considered them, South Park, The Simpsons, and Family Guy, to be like the holy trinity of adult animation, and Family Guy and South Park came into their own at South Park came to its own before Family Guy, because South Park had the benefit of the movie, and then Family Guy came on the air in 2000, got canceled, and then revived in 2005. So
Right.
it took Family Guy in this order. It was Simpsons, South Park, and then Family Guy. But yeah,
Did because I'm looking at this right now, like in like just early 2000s or season 4. Did you watch the episode Cartman joins Nabla?
no.
Oh, this is so good. Cartman thinks like, I'm tired of hanging out with like people like kids my age. I'm gonna go online and try
God.
to make friends with grown adults. So he puts his username on these chats as like young boy, and immediately he gets tons of replies
From pedos.
He's like, hey, are you small? No. He gets a message that's like, I'm 6 inches, and he goes, oh, 6 inches. I never hung out with somebody that short. And he meets up with these people. Your face is just like, oh my God.
Yeah, no, I shouldn't be reacting this way, but it's like it's the show.
You have to suppress your humanity.
You really do.
Like, you just have to laugh. It's
now,
all, it's
I'm gonna
all
be
for
now.
the joke.
I'm gonna be honest. So the first episode I ever saw of South Park on TV was this.
Which one?
It was Casa Bonita.
Casa Bonita.
And do you know
Casa
what's hilarious? Like, when you watch
You
it,
said we're inviting you, Cartman.
yeah. Oh, by the way,
He goes to extreme lengths.
but here's the thing:
to go to Casa
they
Bonita.
take a relatable scenario and take it to absolute
He
extreme.
convinces Butters that there's like a
meteor
apocalypse.
And Butters is actually really intelligent, because Butters winds up in a garbage dump and he thinks that's South Park, the town. So he actually builds a little civilization until...
hey, lady, I guess you and I are the only people. Let's
Repopulate.
repopulate. He just pulls down his pants.
And this lady's like, what? Oh,
And Cartman, like when he gets like, I love the ending when he gets like, sought out, and like
the
he
police
gets
are
caught.
there. It's like
He rushes through all the beats you do at Casa Bonita, like eat the tacos, dance with the mariachi
go
band,
cliff jumping,
and all that. Like, and they're at the end. They're like, "Well, was all that worth it?" Totally.
And do you know what? That because like that was my initially, as I'm watching episodes, I'm jumping all over the seasons, and it's like,
oh,
this.
that's fine.
And do you know what's hilarious? Like, at first I thought, I think this is the episode that shows how truly narcissistic and evil Cartman can be. No. The episode that truly highlights how mortally and unforgivably evil.
Please tell me you're gonna say it.
Yep. Scott Tenorman must die.
This is my favorite episode
Of the whole show?
of the whole show. I mean, if you look up any list, it's either this. It's either Make Love Not Warcraft or Scott.
Oh, that's a
Tenorman
great one,
Or Scott
too.
Tenorman Must Die. Those are like the top. Those are like the.
Yeah.
Those are honestly like the Marge
Yeah.
Marge versus the monorail. Like, it's like the best episode.
Do you
of the
know
show. This is when the show became so fucking dark. Like,
Yeah.
they can do anything. Yeah. This is when I forget what it. Oh, it was Make Love Not Warcraft, the diarrhea, but like that ending.
Bathroom. Yeah, that one.
The ending of Scott Tenorman Must Die made me laugh so fucking hard. I had to rewatch it again. I couldn't believe it. It was the funniest twist.
I rewatched it too.
But Scott Tenorman, he's such an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, he rips him off from like selling him pubes.
Yeah.
And how the hell did he do that switcheroo thing where he's like, okay, I'll give you your money. Do you have change? I only got it as a 20. Okay, there, I'll give you your 20, and I'll give you the here, I'll take the pubes, and I'll give you your change back, and I'll give you all the rest of your change back, and I'll give you the pubes, and I'll take the 20. And then he ends up having nothing at the end. I'm like, how the fuck did you do that?
Oh, and by the way, like, it's like Thanos. Like, just when you think you beat him, he's 10 steps ahead of you, and he, like, is going to do something. That's like the Infinity War of South Park.
I mean, they got fucking Radiohead to be in this episode.
I know!
That's awesome.
Like, the Radiohead guest starred, and it's almost like how The Simpsons got George Harrison to be in Homer's Barbershop Quartet. Like, it's so weird, but it works.
I mean, the fact that they got Tom York from Radiohead to say, this boy has cancer in his ass, is something I never thought I would hear, but I'm so happy that I did.
Yeah.
The funniest part in this episode is actually when they were, like, reconning Scott Charman, and they find out, oh, he's a big fan of Radiohead. And then Ned and Uncle Jim. Yeah, Uncle Jim, right? No, Uncle... Stan's uncle, whatever. I forgot his name. When they're
Is he the guy who like owns the cattle
Uncle
farm?
Ned, Uncle Ned, and oh my god, I'm mixing up their names actually. Sorry. When they're just like spying on Scott Tenorman's mom changing. And then the dad catches him and goes outside. He's like, "Hey, I see you in the bushes. You better get out of here before I call."
And then like 20 people run away.
20 people? I'm like, oh my god, that's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I'm not kidding. That is great. There's like 20 people that you didn't even know were there before.
Yeah.
And one of them was Randy Marsh wearing a clown mask.
I noticed. Wow. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, dude, that's like such a fucking good one.
Another. So I want to talk about. So you mentioned Make Love Not Warcraft. I actually saw that episode in like parts on YouTube, like back in the day, and it was made at a time when World of Warcraft was the shit.
I never played it, but like,
I never played.
Damn,
you don't have to.
Is this episode so well done?
If South Park ever made an episode about Halo Online, I would have been there. No, because they took the game engine. They actually incorporated South Park and Machinima. Do you know how the art of Machinima? I used to watch Machinima all the time. So to see Machinima on a mainstream show is incredible.
Yeah, but here's the thing is that like watching it, and I don't know if you felt this, but like I was so used to watching that on standard def on like DVDs and cable and all that like watching it recently on high definition Paramount Plus, like it's so pixelated. It hurt my eyes actually. Oh. The background felt jerky. Like the characters felt still, and then the background felt jostled.
So
like, what the fuck?
So the remastered version didn't really
It's distorted it a bit for me. But regardless, dude, I mean, we are dealing with somebody who has absolutely no life.
Yeah.
How do we kill one that has no life?
Yeah, I love that. It's like, my children are playing Warcraft right now. Your children their avatars have already been killed. No!
And look at Randy's dying at the end, and he's just like making the, I have to tell you, son, I've always loved you.
Yeah.
I mean, they just they blow up a whole thing where it's just like, all they're doing is just playing a fucking video game, and they become like fat slobs just because they gotta rally up and kill this troll.
Fat slob, acne riddled, like gunk.
Just to rally up and kill this one troll that just blatantly kills everybody on this.
And then, do you know, apparently, like, that was based on a real problem that the real game had, because apparently, like, assholes on both World of Warcraft and RuneScape would go, because RuneScape was another huge popular MMO back then that I almost got into RuneScape, but I never did, but apparently, like, I would hear, like, I had friends who played RuneScape and World of Warcraft, and it was, like, the legends were true. Like, you could run into some asshole who would just kill you just because that's not the object. The object of the game isn't to kill. The object is to do quests. And it's like, it's always annoying when you get that one motherfucker who like is just hacking people for just cause. And it's like, I'm trying to do fucking quests, dog. Like, I mean,
get the fuck out of here. I got no experience with that. I'm not really that big of a PC gamer, but I get the frustration.
Because I had an Xbox Live hookup, like, every game has its share of trolls where they're like, if you're trying to do something, like, even if in Halo Online multiplayer co-op, like, let's say, like, your friend, you could get a party of 4, your friend could be a dick and kill you through friendly fire constantly. It's like, dude, fuck off, and you just boot them. But it's like, yeah, no. And especially if you go into matchmaking, like, it's not uncommon to get this one asshole who will just betray the whole team. But thankfully, I know in the modern era, modern day games have fixed that. Well, like with Fortnite, they make friendly fire impossible. The only way you could, and like, also the game developers have like upped their like ban limitations. Like you can get banned very easily, like compared to back then. So like it was a relatable episode, and I love how
it hits, because
it does.
The more relatable South Park gets, the better it's gonna get, because all you're doing, because I find that like what they do so well is that they find something that's close to a relatable situation, or like something that you can like identify with, and all they do is just exaggerate it with like such a straight face, or a straight voice, like how serious that they take things. And you've noticed that like a lot of adults in the show are voiced by Trey, and they all sound the same almost. Like any kind of like bystander or just new character that's like a male, it's like they're like, hello, they sound like this all the time. You know, like,
they sound like this all the time.
Yeah.
On the topic of video game episodes, Guitar Hero.
I remember watching that episode a long time ago, but again, it's just capping on the fad.
Do you know?
Of it, right?
No, and it was brilliant because the episode starts with Stan and Kyle at Stan's house playing Guitar Hero, and I love how, like, you know, they care more about the game than they do the fact that, you know, Randy can play Carry On Wayward Son, but he can play it to a T, and they don't give a shit. They just want to get the fucking high score in the game. And when I was in high school and Guitar Hero was a fad, there was this one asshole who would be like, hey guys, play a real guitar. Like, you're obsessed with a game. Like, all the effort you could all the time you spend learning to get perfection on Guitar Hero, you could be spent actually learning to play a real guitar or a real instrument. I mean, by the way, Josh, we're not knocking you at all, like, but we know that you can nail. You've played Rock Band with him. He can nail the whole game to perfection.
Yeah, he's great on drums.
He's great, yeah.
But
he played. I'm not knocking him because he plays drums in real life. That's why he's so good.
Yeah, that's
the guy Josh lives and breathes music. So that's, in that instance, it's forgivable and it's understandable.
On that note, actually, speaking of Guitar Hero and Rock Band, it's kind of funny that in the first Rock Band, there is a song called "Timmy and the Lords of the Underworld."
Yes.
And that's from the episode Timmy 2000. Yes. Where the Lords of the Underworld were trying to find like a new singer, and they get Timmy on board, and they do that song, and then like Phil Collins finds out about it, and he's like, "Oh, I'm unoffended. I mean, why are they just having this kid that has disabilities to be exploited?" As in the whole episode, he's holding his Oscar that he won for Tarzan. And he's just being sensitive and just...
Oh, that's right, because he would have been hot shit for Tarzan at the time.
Oh, it's so good.
For some reason, every time I do a podcast with like just you, somehow Tarzan comes up, because in the School Days episode with Pop Talk, you talked about Tarzan, and then when we were talking about Mulan, we talked about Tarzan. I don't know. If ever you and I do a show one-on-one,
it slips in. I guess.
Tarzan comes up somehow. But anyway, so back to guitar. I love how they take the piss out of the whole the time you spent playing this stupid game could be spent actually learning an instrument and being a real band. They take it to an extreme. They take it into extreme where some agent sees these kids playing the game. It's like, we want to represent you to actually go like and to play the game live to see people get the for an audience to get the high score, and they, without an actual heroin addiction coming in, like there's Heroin Hero where like you have to try and catch the dragon and you can never catch the dragon. The object, you button mash the controller and you shoot heroin in your arm. It's like,
as you're describing that, I'm remembering the layout of the game. Yes, I remember
this
that.
Dragon, this cute little dragon is flying around the screen, and it's like, you think the goal is to catch it, but it's an unwinnable game.
I remember that.
You're just going to keep shooting heroin. And I love how they treat it like a real heroin addiction, where Stan is passed out, like drooling on his couch, like as if he actually did heroin.
Oh, that's good.
So there's that. And the ending is one of the, like, you play the whole goal of the episode. We're just gonna spoil it. The goal of the episode is they want to get Guitar Hero to play Guitar Hero to 1,000,000 points. They do it, and the congratulations screen is like, wow, we didn't expect people to get this far. It's like, you got 1,000,000 points in Guitar Hero. Congratulations, you are fags. And then they're just like, God damn it, like we waste our fucking time. Yeah.
I love it. It's so funny.
Oh, and okay, I feel like there's another episode I want to talk about very quickly, but then I want to get into something you touched on, disabilities and how this show handles them. Because, but I want to talk about, but if I go into that, that's going to be like a bit of a talk. I want to get this out of the way, but so one of the first solo jokes on its own that is one of the hardest laughs I've ever had at anything was the first 2 minutes of "With Apologies to Jesse Jackson," where Randy goes on Wheel of Fortune.
Oh God! No! You cannot say it though.
I'm gonna do it.
No! Please don't.
I'm gonna do it.
No!
Sorry, cut this. Lyle, cut this part out. I already told him to bleep out anything we say.
Just don't say it.
Don't say it. Okay.
Yeah, don't.
Fine. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Leave all this in too.
Okay. But it's like he. Okay. So the content. People who annoy you.
N-GG.
No. N-GGERS, and the black camera gives a dirty look. Like, you know where this is going.
Well, it turns out that he says something that no one should ever say, but then
on national television.
But the word was naggers.
Like, how do you fuck that up?
Naggers.
Oh, naggers, of course.
Oh my
God.
God.
The dead silence, like. And the way he's so upbeat when
how they got away with that on television astounds me. I'm not kidding. That literally astounds me. Yeah. What lawyers did they have to persuade? Oh my God. I got one. Well, it's actually
but
oh, sorry.
So that was the hardest laugh I've ever had at a. You know how you died laughing at when I saw that on YouTube. I was crying. Like, that was the funniest that was the hardest I'd ever laughed at anything. And then it wasn't until recently that I saw the episode in its full context, and how it resolves itself is actually just as funny, because the episode is like it deals with the concept of, you said this and therefore you bear the label of evil, bigoted, racist. But how they resolve the evil racism part is this. They outlaw a word, but they don't outlaw the N-word. They outlaw anyone. They make it illegal to call out anyone who says any white guy who says the N-word. I'm right. Like, that actually is very realistic. Like, I feel like that's something. I mean, not to get dystopian or cynical, but I feel like
it's kind of tapping into cancel culture.
Exactly. We are close. Okay, whenever someone says something really dumb, the person who says something, the dumb, controversial shit, they say, "Oh, I'm just exercising my free speech," but in the same breath they say, "Will you guys stop? I wish it were illegal to call me out on this." It's like they want there are some nut jobs that want the benefit to say whatever they want, but in order to have that benefit, they want it to be illegal for people to call them out or for people to fire them or punish them in some way. Like, I've seen people say, "Oh, I can say whatever I want, and my boss should not legally be allowed to fire me." Like, you do realize that if you're going by First Amendment logic, which we don't have in Canada, but in the U.S., if you're going by First Amendment logic, you can't have it both ways. Like, you can't have it one way. It has to go both ways. If you're going to say something dumb and bigoted, then anyone in a position of power that you work for, they are going to exercise their First Amendment rights, and they're going to punish you for it.
Right.
And they basically. They don't make it illegal to say the N-word. They make it illegal to call anyone out for saying the N-word. Like, that's actually hilarious.
Yeah, they pull the rug underneath the logic of it, almost.
So, now, you mentioned how the show tackles disabilities.
Well, before we get to that one, actually, we can save that a little bit later, because I know you'll have a lot to say about that one. I know which one you're talking about.
No, there are two I want to talk about.
Oh, okay. Okay, I was trying to remember which one, the other one. I think I have an idea of which both ones you're talking about, actually. Is one of them cripple fights?
No.
Okay.
It's the Lil Tourette Petit, I think it's called.
Oh, I don't think I've... What's that one?
Okay, so we'll just get into it. So,
Yeah.
Little Tourette Petit, I might be fumbling the name of the episode. I'm sure, like, Lyle is going to be editing this. He's going to throw the actual title up on the screen and call me an idiot while he's editing. But, okay, I love you, Lyle. But the point is, so, in this episode, Cartman's at the mall, and he sees this poor kid with Tourette's sputtering obscenities while he's just shopping with his mom, and the poor kid is like having crippling anxiety while he has no control over swearing. Cartman sees this, learns what Tourette's syndrome is, and his evil mind immediately jumps to, I am going to exploit the living shit out of this disease. And so he basically takes every opportunity he can to swear and drop anti-Semitic slurs, which I'm not going to drop here.
I want to watch this one now.
Oh,
what
it's
is it
great. It's called Little Petite Tourette. I could be fucking that up.
Do you remember what season it was?
I don't remember what season, but look up the Tourette's episode. Google South Park Tourette's.
Okay.
And I was looking up fun facts about this episode. The Tourette Society of America actually wrote a letter of praise to the showrunners for tastefully, yes, South Park tastefully tackled the issue of Tourette's. Because while Cartman is being that evil asshole who wants to exploit the disease, it delves into like the real like trauma that people with Tourette's go through on a daily basis. And I'm not gonna lie, to get all deep, it kind of made me feel bad because there was a kid when I was in high school. I had a class with a kid who I knew for a couple years, and then at one point he casually dropped that he had Tourette's, and he did, those tics like fuck, shit, like that was real. And then I honestly thought I thought he was joking, and then one guy kind of looked at me and essentially like, that guy actually has Tourette's, Evan. Like, I'm like, oh my god. So I was like, I felt bad. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry because if someone actually has like an illness, and also because how you want to talk about how Kyle and Cartman constantly clash.
Yeah.
Cartman is the only person that suspects, Cartman is faking the fuck out of this. Mm-hmm. And when he tries to call out Cartman, everyone thinks he's a bully, and they send Kyle to like a support group for understanding Tourette's and how to not be an asshole to these people.
I gotta watch this one now.
Oh, dude.
Oh, you are right, by the way. The title, it's called Le Petit Tourette.
Le Petit Tourette, yeah. Okay, there we go. So, anyways, and so that's how they handle Tourette syndrome. So, I've said it many times on this show that I have Asperger's syndrome, or I often pronounce it Asperger, but
you won't pronounce it Asperger's.
Oh man!
I messaged you. I was like, I need to know your reaction to this episode more than anything in the world.
Here it is. I enjoyed it immensely, and I was okay. My favorite line in the entire episode is, I may be butchering it a little bit, but it goes like this, like, okay, if there was a mental disorder, we wouldn't call it Asperger's. That's just mean. Like, because it's true. Because I've had assholes, like, call me, yo, you Asperger, like, you do realize that you don't sound mean. Like, you sound, I get you're trying to be mean, but you just sound stupid. Like,
yeah.
Like, and I'm like, I don't like this, like, this condition that I have. Like, it sounds so stupid, but it's a two-parter plot. The way that this episode juggled tones was astounding.
Oh, it
to
was,
me.
yeah.
Like, it starts with, you said it's a follow-up to another episode, which I didn't see, but apparently that's the episode where Stan, like, is going through a funk where he's listless.
Oh, he's like depressed as
because
hell.
his parents are divorced and all that, and so eventually, like, they think he has I think it's Mr. Mackey who says, I think you have Asperger's syndrome because you're just disassociating, you're being very dry.
Which is not like a...
By the way, I just did a whole other podcast, like, which I'm not going to get into detail, but on that show, I made it very clear. People with Asperger's syndrome do not disassociate. If anything, we feel more. Okay, sorry to blow out the mic, but I had to get that across. Like,
that's okay.
People like, oh my fuck, like people think people like us are robots. Like we're not fucking robots. Like we feel things probably more than most people do. And Stan is just dejected from everything and all this crap, and they send him to a support group, and they actually they kind of go a little too far. I wasn't offended 1 second, but like when they take him to that society where there's this one guy pissing on the wall.
It's like a Matrix thing. Yeah.
Okay, that's where it actually started to get interesting, because it's like people with Asperger's are apparently enhanced enough to see that if we are in a simulation, apparently people like me and Josh are mentally advanced enough to understand, to see. Apparently, if Cody, think about this, if we're all puppets, then Josh and I have the ability to see the strings.
Oh,
think about that.
Deep.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm I admire this episode for going deep. But the way that they okay, if you want to blend in with the rest of society, here's your little Matrix serum. It's just alcohol, and Stan's acting all drunk. And...
So basically, they're capping on the cynics.
Oh, by the way,
people who are cynical.
Yeah, and remember how I talk about how when Cartman overhears that Stan might have Asperger's,
He puts burgers...
He tries to exploit this in the most literal way possible. He puts He goes to the nurse and is like, oh, check out my butt. I think I have Asperger's. And he puts burgers in his bum. Oh, and then I'm sorry. You can't wake up the neighbors. But
yeah. It's
I love this episode.
His recipe towards his burgers is pretty
and it gets to the point where the other fast food chains are mystified by how he's incorporating the best flavor ever.
They're combining all the ingredients of every single fast food joint into one.
And it comes from his ass. That's no, okay. A buddy of mine. Okay, do you know there's that dumb YouTube sketch called The Retarded Policeman?
Oh, yeah.
He is cop and he's
Ponce Man.
It's Mediocre Films.
Mediocre Films. Ponce Man is the guy's name, right?
Yeah, there's one episode.
I remember,
there's one episode that actually is offensive where he's like, "Hi, I have Asperger's," and they make it so oh, Asperger's means he shits burgers. That's. You couldn't have been less creative if you were blindfolded.
As you said that, you shit burgers. It actually just reminded me. Did you watch the episode Red Hot Christian Love?
No, I didn't.
So it's all a play on the whole it was a very early 2000s episode where they thought every single Catholic priest molests children, right?
Oh, yeah.
So when they asked the kids did Father Mackey ever try, or did Father I think it was Father Mackey. Did he ever try to put something in your butt? And they're all the kids are like, no. He's a decent priest, right?
Yeah.
He's not gonna do stuff like that. But he's trying to. There's the plot is him trying to make it so that this could not we could have sex with women, but we can't molest kids and all that. But then the kids are just so perplexed. What would he want to put in our butt? Chef comes by. Oh there, children. They go, Chef. What would a priest want to put in my butt? Goodbye. He just walks away. But then Cartman's like, wait a minute. If you eat food, you crap out your butt. But if you put food in your butt, you can crap out your mouth. And he proves it.
God.
It goes. They say it's actually good for you. You're supposed to put food up your butt, and then it doesn't cause colon cancer, and it's good for the lower cholesterol. It cuts to Martha Stewart on her show.
Oh my fucking
saying, all right,
God.
today we're gonna roast a turkey. She roasts a turkey, and she puts it down on the floor. She squats over it, and she sits on it, going, "Oh yeah!" And the whole turkey goes up her ass. She goes, "All right, thank you for watching my show."
I wish the audience could see the look on our faces. I'm just what the fuck. But hey, I shouldn't be surprised.
This is
South Park we're talking
great.
about.
It's such a good one.
Okay.
I have another one. Sorry.
Okay.
Well, wait. Is that all I had to say about Asperger's, or?
Yeah. No. The episode is called Asperger. And
Asperger's.
That's okay. Literally tastefully done. Literally
I like that. Tastefully done.
Tastefully done. Literally.
So 2 weeks after the movie premiered in 1999, Well, the first episode that aired after the movie came out was the sexual harassment panda episode, which was pretty funny.
Oh yeah, that
Sexual
one.
harassment panda.
Oh god.
But like a week after that, there was a 3-parter that was actually a cool little 3-parter that I'm always kind of fond of, and I'm always so nostalgic of, I should say, because I watch these ones a lot. So the 3 episodes are called Cat Orgy, 2 Guys Naked in a Hot Tub, and Jubilee. So the whole thing is that like there's a meteor shower going on one night, and the Cat Orgy episode focuses on Cartman's point of view during that night. He's getting babysat by Shelley Marsh.
Oh, yeah.
You know Shelley Marsh.
Shelley Marsh is Stan's older sister.
Listen up, you turd.
Yeah.
Like they clash throughout the episode, but then they have like a nice arc where they get along at the end.
Yeah.
In the second episode, it's 2 Guys Naked in a Hot Tub. That's
I didn't get a chance to watch that episode.
Stan. Well, it's all pretty much a 3-parter. It's Stan's point of view during that episode, so it's like his point of view, and it's just him hanging out with Pip and Butters, and he's just like, oh my god, these guys are Melvins.
Oh, Pip reminded me of something I have to talk about that parody.
Sure.
It's one of my all-time favorite movies, but go on.
Okay, and then the third episode was Jubilee. That's where Kyle takes Kenny to this Jewish camp.
Oh.
And it's during the meteor shower. But it's cool that like little things happen throughout this episode where you're kind of like, wait, that's random. And then the next episode you're like, oh, that's because it was going on during that time in that episode. It's kind of like an interconnected storyline of all 3 of these episodes, because you'll see like the cops go by in one episode and you'd be like, what's that about? And then the next episode the cops are involved in the plot. You just didn't know that it was connected to somebody else. But I just thought it was kind of cool to have like a 3 kind of parter kind of do that.
Yeah.
When I was talking about Red Hot Christian Love, that reminded me of Christian Hard Rock.
Oh, Christian Hard Rock.
Did you watch that one?
No, sorry.
Oh, well, you made it sound like you did.
Sorry, because I know of Christian Hard Rock, and like I understand like how people like take piss shots at it. Like
Carmen again, like he does, exploits.
where speaking of, like he does. Where the hell is Lyle's trademark catchphrase?
Like you do.
There you go. Yeah.
He realizes, wow, you can make millions off of if you can just form your own Christian rock band. All you need to do is take any song and replace every word, like instead of baby, you replace it with Jesus. So him and Token and Butters form a band called Faith Plus One.
Yeah.
And they end up going like triple platinum. Like he's trying to make a bet with Kyle, like I'll go triple platinum if I make this successful. Yeah. But the whole episode is a theme on the fact that the whole thing with Napster legally downloading music.
Oh yeah.
The boys are like, what? It's not a big deal. We're just downloading music. Not a big deal. Well, let me just show you. This is the giant mansion, the home of Lars Ulrich from Metallica. And here he's standing with his kid. And his kid's crying because he can't get a giant pool for his birthday because people like you because people like you choose to download his music for free.
Oh,
it's just it's taking the piss out of like
illegally downloading.
Illegally downloading doesn't really like affect super rich artists, but it definitely does sting.
Yeah, it's a pinprick.
But that's the thing I like about South Park sometimes, where it doesn't feel so one-sided. It presents the argument.
It's nuanced.
The debate, but it stays really impartial. But it also comes out with like some valuable lesson at the end. Yeah. With their whole we learned something today. That was like their kind of like staple of every episode almost.
I like that.
What's another one you got?
Another one I got. Okay, so you reminded me of this episode parodies one of my all-time favorite movie sagas, the Return of the Fellowship of the Two Towers. Or
no. The Return of the Return of the Fellowship of the Ring to the Two Towers.
Yes!
This is a perfect fucking parody,
okay,
dude.
like, this is how, beat for beat, how you parody Lord of the Rings.
We talked about how the fuck did The Shining sum up the whole
plot of The Shining
in 10 minutes. This 22 episode did the whole fucking trilogy of Lord of the Rings.
In 22 minutes.
And it is
9 hours worth of story.
It is a genius concept.
It is.
It is a genius concept. They accidentally swapped the Lord of the Rings with a porno.
And
do you remember the name of it?
It was like the two...
Backdoor Sluts
9,000.
I love how every father was like, no, not Backdoor Sluts 9. And the mom's like, how do you know what that is?
Was that like... No, was that... Token's dad.
It was every father.
Yeah, like, oh no, not backdoor, because the idea is like, you know, in
it's
married
the hottest porno.
The joke is in married life you're gonna sneak porn, like not just any porn, the most extreme porn you can find.
The Butters gets this whole hand of it.
My movie, my precious.
He becomes like
Gollum.
Gollum, but he's like so like he becomes like a sex freak.
And I love how the 8th graders are the ring wraiths.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a fucking perfect concept. Look at this is what I mean. It's not just references. This isn't.
No,
It's
the plot.
This isn't like Family Guy where it's just making the reference. This is taking the premise and the beats of Lord of the Rings, but working it within its own little story.
Yeah,
like it's so good. It's so.
It is good. Like. It's up there with Spaceballs and like one of the greatest parodies.
Remember Jimmy? Okay, the fact that I laugh at Jimmy is the reason why.
Like the Jimmy the cerebral palsy kid.
Yeah. The fact that I laugh at him is the reason why I'm going to hell.
Yeah.
When I die,
no,
I'm
you know
going
what?
to hell.
Like I knew. Okay, so I actually want to give a shout out to.
I mean, Hunter agrees too. Like both, like he said the same thing. We bonded over that. He's like, "Oh, you laugh at Jimmy? I laugh at Jimmy too. I'll see you in hell, man."
Okay, yeah.
You shall not pee.
Oh yeah.
You shall not pee.
Yeah.
It's so.
Oh, there's an episode I want to talk about that has Jimmy like as a prominent character.
Is it like the Rocky homage?
No, it's fish sticks.
Hey, Evan.
What?
I have a question. Do you like fish sticks?
Yes, Cody, I like fish sticks.
Do you like to put fish sticks in your mouth?
Yes, Cody, I like to put fish sticks in my mouth.
Then you're a gay fish!
Yeah.
The funniest joke ever made.
Oh, and by the way, since the whole media, as of this recording, is taking the piss out of Kanye West, by the way, do you know that? That episode...
Did he respond to this?
No, he did. I am sure that in some oblivion he has, but guess what? Do you know that episode... Okay, people like to talk about how The Simpsons predicted things. South Park has predicted things.
Yeah.
Like, they have predicted more than we are willing to admit. Case in point, Kanye West being a huge douche on the whole world stage. Do you know that apparently after the Taylor Swift incident in 2009, because that episode Fish Sticks was made before that incident, after that incident, Comedy Central played Fish Sticks on loop for 2 hours. Yeah,
nice.
Like just to take the piss out of this guy.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
But here's the thing, like Jimmy comes up with the joke, and Cartman, being the asshole that he is, tries to take all the credit.
To take the credit.
He tries to take all the
makes
credit.
up all these stories. No. This is how it happened. You were sitting there, and I came up with the joke, and
and your mom like, "Hey, Cartman, it's so good to see," because that's how narcissists work. Like they see things.
That's a later episode that I was happy I watched actually, because there's a lot that I needed to watch in between seasons 11 to 20. Yeah, like I've seen a small handful. It's really just like between 1 and 10.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one too. Hey, Evan.
Hey, what?
Do you want to get high?
Oh.
Towelie.
Oh.
Did you not watch Towelie? No. Oh, you're out of your mind, dude.
There's so much content.
I'm so high right now. I don't have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. It's a talking towel.
Oh, yeah.
The whole episode is the kids just want to play their fucking Okama game sphere. Yeah. Their console. Which, by the way, Okama is apparently translated in Japanese to male prostitute, I think.
Wow.
Like Okama game sphere. And the whole plot is so needlessly complicated when the kids just... They're like, we literally say, we don't care. Like, we just want to play our video game. Where is it? Yeah. And the whole time it's like they have this towel who's like a talking towel. They're like this Dynacorp company wanted to steal it, but then one day Towelie got high and he just sort of wandered off.
Yeah.
Like it's taking the piss out of the fact that like at that time, which also Towelie, that episode was the last episode that aired right before 9/11.
Oh,
fun fact.
Shit.
But before that, Trey and Matt hated the fact that like all these crazy eccentric characters in the early episodes, whether it was Starvin' Marvin or Big Gay Al or what's that Jar Jar Binks one, the yellow annoying one, Javonosaurus or something like that.
Was he in the movie? Is he that guy who says, "You some people gonna die"?
Is it the yellow beak looking?
I don't.
Yeah, it's like some character, but they hated the fact that like anytime they release like an eccentric like crazy memorable character, there's like a media blitz surrounding it. So they're like, all right, we're gonna come up with the stupidest idea ever: a talking towel that likes to get high off of weed.
Yeah.
And then they even in the middle of the episode they have like a live action commercial that's like, hey, do you love Talloway? Well, now you can get the merchandise, and it's like right away there's already like. I think it would have worked better if you were watching that episode while it was on TV, mixed in with real commercials. Because right away you'd be watching this going like, wait, what? There's already Talloway merch? We're in the middle of his episode.
Wow, yeah. Well, because that's...
Dude, you gotta go home and watch Talloway.
Okay,
this is a classic.
If you go watch like
episode.
Le Petit Tourette, then I'll go home and watch Talloway.
All right, fair enough.
Okay, so now...
Yeah, go ahead.
This is what else is... So,
yeah.
In terms of like... where do we go from here? But like
oh, well, I want to just let's
there's
keep going
tons
with episodes.
There's tons of like I'm actually kind of running out of like
are you?
stuff
Okay.
that I've seen because like there's so much content to like.
Can I make some recommendations too,
Yeah,
or
sure.
maybe if you had already seen them, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Have you seen Professor Chaos?
Professor Chaos.
Butters hits a breaking point where he thinks he's getting bullied a lot, that he makes his own superhero or supervillain persona. And it's Professor Chaos, and it's like tinfoil mask and like...
No, but I've seen an episode in that I know of this because Simpsons already did it.
Oh, dude, well, it's so funny because the episode right before that was Professor Chaos.
Yeah, and
That was his
Simpsons already
introduction.
did it because it's like, I'm going to do like every single thing. The whole episode is about, because you know how like The Simpsons was such a staple of pop culture, and there's this one asshole who says, you can't do that because Simpsons already did it. It's a take on, it's like every idea has been done.
Yeah.
Who the fuck cares if The Simpsons did it?
Yeah, like,
and that's one of the things that, do you remember when like you, me, Sean, and Lyle would get together and like, one of the things that like I would make me a little insecure, like sometimes like, you know, sometimes like if I'm pitching an idea, like someone will say, oh like that movie, and I think if you're comfortable sharing, like you told me this really like, you know, heartfelt story about how like when we were younger, you came up with an idea that was almost identical to like Edge of Tomorrow, and then you saw Edge of Tomorrow, and then you were
Oh, no, I saw the trailer, and I went over to my, you know...
idea book,
and I just went, rip, rip, rip.
And then you and I joked that, hey, if you ever meet Tom Cruise in person, you'll say, hey, I love Top Gun Maverick, but god damn it, you did my idea!
And Tom Cruise, can you please come out of the closet? Trapped in the closet. I was just standing here.
The fucking Oprah...
Trying to get out of the...
Man,
Get Tom
they
Cruise out
went
of the
to
closet.
that Oprah episode, you know...
Oh, no. I was talking about the Trapped in the Closet episode.
But apparently that was inspired by the whole... him going on Oprah and jumping up on her couch.
Oh, no. Okay.
If I think of it... Okay.
Trapped in the Closet goes... It literally rips Scientology a new asshole.
And do you know what? You want to talk... Okay, I mentioned organizations have praised South Park for their handling of topics. Not the Church of Scientology. Guess what? The Church of Scientology actually tried to dig up dirt on Trey Parker and Matt Stone. They didn't find a goddamn thing.
What's so funny is they credited that whole episode at the end, in the end credits. Everything says by John Smith, Jane Smith, John Smith, Jane Smith.
Yeah.
But here's...
Yeah.
I gotta say this fun fact, and this is actually like... It says something a lot about the Church of Scientology, I'll just say.
Yeah.
So, apparently, Isaac Hayes, who did the voice of Chef,
Yeah.
he quit the show.
Yes,
At the
because
end of-
he didn't like how they were taking the piss out of Scientology.
Ah, I see. You were fooled as well. So apparently...
Oh, sorry. Okay, what's really going on here? I gotta know this.
So apparently... Yeah, that's what people thought.
That was the official explanation?
He was a Scientologist, and like he quit the show because they thought they went too far, right? So 2 years after he quit the show, he sadly passed away from a stroke. His son later came out and said, no, he didn't quit the show because of the whole Scientology thing. You guys have already made fun of like everything prior to that. Like, it would be hypocritical of my dad. Like, he wouldn't be like that. Apparently, some associate from the Church of Scientology released that statement on behalf of Oscar Isaac's saying like, oh, he quit the show just because of the Scientology joke.
Yeah. Now, can I...
Wow.
So-
Isn't that fucking crazy?
That is crazy.
Like, imagine
Wow.
an organization that you were probably not even a part with or whatever releases a statement on behalf of you, twisting the facts.
Do you know the only other...
They thought they had a falling out, which maybe to a certain extent they didn't, but it was really he left the show because he was diagnosed with a stroke.
He had a stroke. Yeah, that would fuck anyone up.
And he said
unless you're...
his voice was starting to deteriorate.
Okay,
so
a stroke would fuck anyone up unless you're David Fetterman. Congratulations on your win in the midterms.
Oh yeah.
Because if you're following, as of this recording, the U.S.
I
midterm...
heard. Yeah.
So that hack Dr. Oz actually ran as a Republican for the senator of Pennsylvania.
Yep.
He lost to a fellow named David Fetterman, and David Fetterman had a stroke on the campaign trail. He had a very he didn't do so well in the debates because he was like slurring his words, but he because like there's an anti-Republican sentiment in the country right now because of the whole extreme nut job mindset. David Fetterman clobbered Dr. Oz, so good for him.
Nice.
Good for him. Yeah. So yeah. That would cause anyone to quit.
Dude, have you seen Good Times with Weapons?
Okay, I feel bad because I put in as much time. Given how my week's gone, I put in much time as I could to get every episode.
I'll just say it's a wonderful love letter to anime. Like the animation.
Good Times with I saw.
Yeah.
People talk about this.
They get their hands on ninja weapons, and then the animation changes to like anime.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah,
it's great. I won't say too much. I don't want to spoil it.
Okay, then I gotta check this out.
The Passion of the Jew.
Yes! I can talk about this.
Mel Gibson.
It shits on Mel Gibson and he shits back.
Yep. He's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Give me back my money!
And he just does like weird voice.
Did you remember how I was telling you about that lousy movie critic? So there's this guy named Confused Matthew on YouTube, and I remember I talked about him in our Spielberg episode. He talked about how Minority Report is the worst movie he ever seen. He referenced this episode, The Passion of the Jew, where it's like he was so repulsed by Minority Report that he went to the ticket counter and asked for his money back. The ticket counter said exactly the same thing as the ticket guy says at the box office operator says in this episode. If you can't get a refund if you sit through the entire movie, and if you do want a refund, you have to take it up with either the director or the studio. Now, had there been no pandemic and we wound up seeing Sponge on the Run in the theater, would you have gone to the ticket counter and asked for a refund?
I mean, it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. But,
oh, okay.
Yeah.
But have you ever seen a movie where like you saw in the theater like I'm so disappointed that I'm gonna walk out and go to the ticket counter? Which one was that?
Movie 43.
You went to the ticket counter? Did they give it to you? Did you sit through the whole movie though?
I did, and that's where I learned that thing. Like, yeah, and I remember them. Like, I mean, in hindsight, yeah, I was kind of like overblowing it, but but I was so like laugh free and offended by.
You were
that
just
movie.
deflated.
I was deflated and angry and felt like I wasted my time. That out of curiosity, I walked up to the counter and was just like, am I allowed to get my money back from this? Like, that was awful. And they were like, oh, we're sorry you sat through the whole movie. And then kind of went like, yeah, we have heard some like negative things about the movie. And I didn't want to say this, but I'm like, negative things? That was like the worst fucking thing I've ever seen. Like,
well,
but
not to knock Lyle, but
so
he's always the contrarian. Whenever that movie comes up, he says, oh, I saw it on my birthday and I loved it. It's like, you love it for the...
I did not crack a smile.
Hey, you know what?
But
I'm going to just drop a teaser. I'm not going to say what it is, but coming soon to the So to Speak channel, we're going to take the piss out of bad movies. Movie 43 may or may not make our list.
Oh, wait, didn't you already do a worst movie ever?
It came up in the So to Speak pilot. Movie 43 came up like once, I think.
Okay.
That was 2 years ago. I don't really remember, but we may actually like riff Movie 43 in real time. That's what we're getting. Okay, so coming soon to the So to Speak channel. That's our teaser.
Did you? I don't know if you just mentioned this before, but like, did you watch Awesome-O?
It was on my list. I didn't get to it in time, but yeah. So
great episode. Like Cartman pretends to be a robot friend for Butters. And he has to stay in character the whole time because of like Butters was like, I've had it with Cartman. Oh, yeah. And if he ever does anything bad to me ever again, I have a videotape of him dressed up like Britney Spears dancing.
Is that the one where it's like, hey, I do what I want?
No, that is that's Freak Strike.
Oh yeah.
That's the one where like they go on the Maury show and they're trying to like.
Oh yeah.
I know exactly which one that is.
Yeah.
Whatever, I do what I want.
Whatever, I do what I want. Yeah.
What about? Have you seen Best Friends Forever?
No.
This one actually.
Can we go? Sorry, can we go back to Passion of the Jew for a second?
Sure. Yeah.
So we go back to Passion of the Jew for a second. So, I love like this is compare Eric Cartman to every other like main in like an animated satire. Like, who's the if you watch something like King of the Hill, like who's the big asshole? Like compare Eric to Stewie Griffin. Like Stewie Griffin is fucking tame compared to Eric Cartman. Eric Cartman will dress like Hitler and lead a Crystal Knocked chant through the streets of South Park. Like, and by the way, like he is. And do you know what was very subtle going on? Deeply spiritual people who aren't anti-Semitic at all, they go to his meetup group, and even though he's blatantly peddling anti-Semitic stuff, they don't realize it, and they think he gives them like a German chant that really means like hang the Jews or something, or whatever gross garbage it means. They think it's like Gaelic. It's like in like the native tongue that the movie takes from like Jerusalem or whatever. And they think it's like in the native language that was being spoken in the movie. So they think, okay, it's paying homage to the movie. That is such a clever take on how good people get suckered in by terrible conspiracy theories. Because they go to meetup groups thinking that they're just there for a common interest when the leaders have a very sinister agenda. It reminds me of stuff like QAnon and the Freedom Convoy. Like, do you know what? When the Freedom Convoy happened, not to go off topic, but there were people who I know who are not terrible people who legitimately thought the Freedom Convoy was doing good. We had to have uncomfortable conversations with them saying, no, the Freedom Convoy is not in the best interests of the working man. It's in the best interests of extremist groups. Yeah. Like, it's not a labor movement. It is a far-right crypto-fascist movement. So and I told people this, like, I have a coworker at my job who like he honestly thought the Freedom Convoy was a labor movement. And I had to calmly I had a very civil conversation with him. No, this is what the Freedom Convoy is doing. So like, but that really fascinated me how they took a shot at how good people can be duped by conspiracy theories and because they thought, oh, Cartman's just, this little kid is just uniting us for our love of the movie and everything's sacred about Christianity. And I also love how Kyle actually like is so impressionable that he actually sees the movie and it causes him to like rethink his entire faith. Cause it's like, oh, the Jews are so bad to Christ. It's like, you do realize that they're stereotyping Jews. And
I love how just Stan and Kenny were just like, this movie sucks. We want our money back.
Yeah.
Like, I love how every character in that episode has, like, a different, like, perception and something going on.
Yeah.
Like, it's great,
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to ramble just, like, a few more to you.
Yeah,
just,
go ahead,
just to make sure if you've seen them or not. Yeah. And if not, then I recommend them. But I just mentioned, like, Best Friends Forever.
Oh, what's that?
So Kenny dies, and...
Is this not to be confused with Kenny Dies?
No.
Okay.
So Kenny dies. He leaves behind his PlayStation, his PSP.
Oh, okay.
And, Cartman was trying to like convince everybody that in his will or his last words were like if Kenny would die he would inherit his PSP to Cartman, right?
Yeah.
But it's just creating this whole debate on like free will because they have him on like a life support system, Kenny.
Oh yeah.
And it's an episode that actually won an Emmy. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty crazy that a fucking South Park episode wins an Emmy, but it's probably one of the best written episodes because it gets to a very like moral, crazy debate on just like free will and just like people's choice. Like I won't go into it too much. I don't want to spoil it. But what about the death of Eric Cartman?
I heard that. I didn't get the chance to say it.
Everybody hit a breaking point and just didn't want to talk or acknowledge at all Eric or Cartman, and he started to get convinced. Wait, am I dead? Why isn't anyone acknowledging me? But then Butters is the only one that can like communicate with him. But Butters is oblivious on like the fact that everyone's ignoring him, and they're like, "Wait a minute, Butters, you could see me? Oh my God, you're the only person who could see me. You need to like help me."
Is this a parody of
Ghost?
I thought it was a parody of The Sixth Sense.
It's more. It's a bit mix of both, like Sixth Sense and Ghost, I guess. Yeah. I recommend that one.
Here's another episode I did watch that 2 days. You mentioned this earlier. 2 days before the day after tomorrow.
They're running away from global warming. It's this giant tidal wave of nothing.
Yeah.
I remember that visual. That was a good one.
Oh, so yeah, do you know that episode was meant to totally take the piss out of the Bush administration's response to Hurricane Katrina?
Oh, totally, yeah.
Yeah, because they were the scapegoat for everything that went wrong down there. But okay, there's a two-parter episode that I caught my eye because there's a two-parter episode in one of the between season 5 and 10. It's called Pandemic Part 1 and Pandemic Part 2.
Yeah.
At first I'm like, okay, is this going to be about like the SARS outbreak or like, whatever virus was going on at the time? I'm like, let's see what this is and let's see if they predicted COVID or any of the societal things that went with COVID. It caught me by surprise because it's like the four boys go to this kid Craig and they're like, do you want to take your birthday money and turn it into $1,000? We're gonna we're gonna basically dress up as a Peruvian flute band, and apparently it's called Pandemic because pan flutes and like the pan flutes instruments were apparently like a common thing all over the world. Like just you go anywhere to any shopping mall, you see Peruvian flute bands. So the pandemic is like Peruvian flute bands are overrunning, so they round up all these like South American people just playing at the mall, and they take them to a quarantine zone in Miami, and the kids get caught up in this, and they're like, what the hell's going on? Like, we were just impersonating a band. And no, they treat everyone like they're sick and that they're monsters. So it's like, and then we solved the pandemic, like the pan flute band Pandemic. That's why it's called Pandemic. But then killer guinea pigs. Have you seen this episode?
No, actually.
Oh,
no.
you haven't?
No,
Okay.
I haven't seen this one.
Oh man, I kind of but killer guinea pigs like just come on, and it's really funny.
There, when you said two-parter, there's a three-parter that Evan I know. Okay, I know I just rambled some ones that I recommend that I love that I just hope you like. I have to recommend to you because I know you will love it.
Yeah.
Imagination Land Part 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Is right up your alley.
Okay.
It is right up your alley. Not only is it an incredible three-parter, but you'll love what it's about.
Okay.
I can't say anything else.
Imagination Land.
Imagination Land.
Imagination Land. Okay, I'll
Oh my
wait.
god.
I'm getting a deja vu. I feel like I've seen it, but okay, I'll check it out.
You gotta check it out. Yeah, season I believe 10 or 11. I think.
Yeah.
Or maybe 12. No, 11. It's season 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a three-parter.
Yeah.
And one last one because I'm always so fond of it. Did you watch? Oh my god! Wait! Whoa! I just lost. Oh, sorry. Fat Butt and Pancake Head.
I saw the title. I'm like, okay, so because I was scrolling through Paramount Plus, and I'm like, the titles jumped out at me. I'm like,
Carmen like draws like a little design on his thumb and finger and makes like a thing like Jennifer
I know
Lopez.
this. I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I know this. I've seen it in pop culture. I've seen it.
I eat tacos and burritos.
I've seen
I'm
this-
Jennifer Lopez.
I've seen this in memes.
And then Jennifer Lopez herself finds out about it and was like, "Hey, who's this bitch that's impersonating me?" And then like Ben Affleck, and this is why it ages so nicely because now they're back
Lord.
together.
Yeah.
But back then they were dating, I believe, or they were married.
Oh, there was
Early
Bennifer.
2000s?
Bennifer.
They were married or
he
dating?
married Jennifer Garner.
Okay,
He
but
was
now
dating
he's-
Jennifer Lopez.
So at the time when they were dating, Ben Affleck absolutely falls in love with basically Cartman's hand. It's great. I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that.
So there's one last. Okay, so remember how I've been talking about how the holy trinity of like if this discussion is gonna eventually wrap itself.
Oh
up.
yeah, we can wrap it up soon.
But this is the thing. So I want to talk about how like I talked about how I see South Park. No, The Simpsons, South Park, and Family Guy as like a holy trinity of sorts.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about a two-parter episode that combines the trilogy. You know where I'm going with this.
Cartoon
Wars.
I go to bed every night thinking that fish tank joke.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. The fish tank joke Literally, like my rant towards Family Guy is nothing compared to how the fish tank joke of how South Park writes their humor.
No,
I'm
the
not kidding.
manatee tank joke.
Manatee tank. Sorry, yeah. That is so genius and so accurate.
The Family Guy. It's like the big plot twist that they saved for a whole week is Family Guy is written by manatee.
Where two manatees, they pick 3 balls in this tank, and on each ball is written down a person, a pop culture reference, or a place on the on the map, right? And they'll combine the 3, and then that's how they come up with a joke. Oh, you think that's bad, Lois? Well, this would be worse than the time I went to Mexico with Whoopi Goldberg and had a mariachi band or whatever. I don't like just
pull. It's like because
how they do their cutaways.
It's like
yeah.
They take the. And by the way, here's the fun fact: the Simpsons the creators of the Simpsons were so impressed with that episode they sent Trey Parker and Master flowers.
That's amazing.
It's like you took the piss out of our main competition and we love you for that. It's like, and by the way, Bart Simpson like saying "Cowabunga, motherfucker"
was awesome.
Yeah. Oh man.
I mean, all 3 shows are just like different varieties of just how you not only tell jokes but actually like structure stories. Because actually, I don't know if you know this, but I'll send it to you right after this podcast or this tonight or whatever. Yeah. There's a video of Trey and Matt at a it's like some like university class. They're like teaching a lecture to like I guess screenwriting class or whatever. Mm-hmm. And Trey and Matt broke down how they write stories. Yeah. So they like in their writer's room they literally have like this white Bristol board, like a whiteboard with markers. Yeah. And they write, instead of writing down a story, you know how when you tell a story you always say and then this happens, and then this happens, and then. And they say, fuck that. Like, that's how you tell bad storytelling. Like, no one wants to hear and then. They always say it like this.
Because that's rambling.
It's rambling, or it's just like, where is this leading? Like, anything can happen. They insert 2 words in their stories and how they tell what they do with South Park. Therefore and but. So they'll tell a story. They'll tell something happened. Therefore, this happens and this happens. But the consequences of this happens, and it leads into this. So therefore, this happens. But this also happens as a result. And I'm thinking to myself,
because that's how
shit.
Screenplays are supposed to work.
So they have like a great structure, like a formula to it, and how to properly tell it. And with Family Guy, I get the impression, and. Yeah, despite the fact that like I made a reputation and a joke of I hate I like it when it's Stewie and Brian.
Fair enough.
If anyone got me a DVD where it's just their episodes.
So what happens if Family Guy just goes kerplooey and they make it the Stewie and Brian show? Or it's just a spin-off?
I'd watch it.
Yeah,
totally.
Okay, fair enough.
If they made a Road to episodes on DVD, like all those episodes, the back to the pilot, the Road to...
And then there's also like the time travel episode.
Road to the Road to the Universe?
Road to the Multiverse.
Multiverse, all that stuff. Road to Rhode Island, Europe, everywhere. I love those are really great episodes.
Yeah.
I just can't stand Peter Griffin. He's the most obnoxious fucking thing on the planet.
So compare him to Eric Cartman or Homer Simpson. Like, I in the Family Guy.
Peter Griffin is the offensiveness of Eric Cartman with no humor, and he's the stupidity of Homer with no humor. Like I'm just not laughing.
Okay, okay. Do you know that people? Watch Mojo made the argument who's stupider, who is worse in terms of stupidity, Homer or Peter.
Yeah.
You'd think that Peter would be the dumber one, and he does stupider things. But Watch Mojo concludes Homer is more stupid because Homer is stupid by choice. Peter is legally retarded. So, by their logic, no, Peter is stupid because he's legally handicapped. Homer is not. Homer is stupid because of the crayon he chose to have in his brain.
Right.
So, but here's the thing. Yeah, no, that's a great analogy. Like, man, he is the offensiveness of Eric Cartman with no rhyme or reason. He is the stupidity of Homer with no rhyme or reason.
Right.
And you know what?
But ultimately, it's just there's no humor to it.
Yeah. Now here's the thing.
It's just.
Eric Cartman feels like a clever litmus test where it's like, we're going to take an innocent little child and we're going to test the limits of how evil we can make him.
Yeah.
Like, that's great. With Homer Simpson, you get why Homer is stupid, but Homer Simpson is a passionate character. He cares about things deeply. He has weaknesses. He has triggers. He has, things he's good at and things he can do well, despite you think he's an idiot. And he has, like, in terms of good writing, Homer is a well-written, like, caricature of the average American man. And so Homer Simpson is a version of the average American man that everyone wishes we could be. Peter Griffin is a cautionary tale about everything you should not be.
But also Family Guy, there's also this like layer of like self-indulgence in the writing. Like I get this vibe where it's like Seth MacFarlane just thinks he's like the most cleverest guy ever.
Can I be honest? Can I say something that you're gonna want to kiss me for? Seth MacFarlane wishes. I think he goes to bed at night wishing he was Trey Parker and Matt Stone. I think he desperately wants to be them, but he's constrained by the FCC's "you can't do this."
Yeah.
Like, and he's also constrained. His hands are tied by Fox. That's why, going back to Cartoon Wars, that's why there's that big joke where the will of the president of the United fucking States is actually bound by whatever the president of Fox thinks has to happen. Because but Mr. President, my hands are tied. The Family Guy staff wants this. But Mr. President, the president of the United States calls the president of Fox Mr. President. Like, that's not how it fucking works.
Is this the same episode that had that Michael Bay joke?
No, that was in
no, dude. You're right. Sorry, I'm actually thinking of the Imagination Land episode.
Oh, okay.
There's a bit where they're trying to figure out how to get to they're trying to get into Imagination Land, but they need the help of Hollywood directors to come up with ideas.
Man.
So they sit down Michael Bay. He's like, I have an idea. We'll get a big giant transformer to come in and go blah, and then the helicopter will come in and it'll explode and blah blah. And he just keeps rambling, and then they go, those aren't ideas. Those are special effects.
I know.
And he goes, I don't understand the difference. I'm like, I know you don't. Get out of here. Sorry.
But yeah, no, but going back, so yeah, Eric Cartman, like, is a litmus test for, like, let's make the most evil, let's test the limits of how truly evil we can make a character. Oh, and for shits and giggles, let's make him a kid. That's Eric Cartman.
Like, there was one episode, I caught a random episode of Family Guy one time where, like, Brian got, like, horrible, devastating news.
Yeah.
And then the camera pans away, and it's Ferris Bueller going, here's where Brian goes berserk. And then it does... It does the reference exactly where it's Brian screaming, it goes out of his mouth, and it cuts to the same footage from Ferris Bueller of, like, Cameron when he was screaming, and it's showing all the B-roll around the city. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I've seen Ferris Bueller. I know what you're doing. You're not doing anything clever with this.
Yeah.
However, in Family Guy, there was some episode where Brian got kicked out of college or he got kicked out of some job because they found out he was a college dropout, and he walks away and you think, oh, you're at his low point, whatever.
Yeah.
It's playing the Peanuts music, and then he just hops on top of the house and just sits there like how Snoopy does it, and it's like 5 seconds, right? Mm-hmm. And I laughed because I thought, okay, that is a reference, but it's also an unexpected reference because you're playing out with my expectations. Because, yeah, Brian does look like Snoopy. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, your low point, yeah, just make this little reference. But it's not like blatantly...
in your face.
But it's also not just doing the reference for the sake of doing the reference, like beat for beat.
Okay, I'm going to go another example. Like, we're kind of ragging on Family Guy.
I know.
But this is good because... the creators of South Park want us to do this. I'll rag on Family Guy for one more sentence, and then we'll go back to sucking off South Park because this is good. So the thing is, because you know how my biggest problem with the Family Guy Star Wars trilogy is Blue Harvest is the best of the bunch, but the reason why I don't like the Family Guy Star Wars trilogy is because the funniest, most memorable joke, the best jokes in the trilogy are directly related to Star Wars. Everything else is not related to Star Wars. Like, in the parody of Return of the Jedi, it's a trap. Like, in the scene where, like, they're at the Sarlacc pit, for reasons I don't understand, they insert a clip from the movie Caddyshack. Well, we're waiting. I'm like,
dude,
why?
So do you realize that they ruined a joke in that moment?
Yeah.
I know exactly what scene you're talking about, but it's making fun of the scene where they're like dun dun and nodding, and they keep going. And that's funny. It's repetitive, right?
Yeah.
It just keeps going. It's like a Monty Python bit almost, where it's just like, oh my god.
So they were going for something, and then why did you need to throw in
you threw
footage
in this,
from Caddyshack?
You threw in this Caddyshack reference. Is like, okay, you don't need to.
No, it's like, no, here's the thing.
You already
while
had
we're
the joke
waiting,
going.
do you know what? They could have taken anything. Here's another reference they could have pulled. They could have taken Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Get on with it! They could have done that, and the joke would have been the same.
I wouldn't even say cut to live. Don't cut to live action.
Yeah, but and that's the thing. And by the way, when Lucas trained to be a Jedi, they cut back and forth between footage from the training montage of Ivan Drago in Rocky V. It's like Ivan or Rocky IV, whichever Rocky Ivan Drago was in. It's like, why?
We get it, Seth MacFarlane. You watched a lot of things in the 80s.
You did, yeah. Oh.
But that's the thing. To go back to it, okay, just to say one last thing.
Yeah.
Family Guy relies on your awareness of pop culture when South Park
relies on your...
has the respect to know that their audience is actually like paying attention to what's going on in the world.
Yeah. If you're in tune with current events and you're watching South Park, you're going to have a good time.
Because okay, Simpsons is obviously a juggernaut of both but parodies and
pop
culture and social dilemmas, but also they have such rich characters, and that's why they are obviously the top.
In mind,
they're a top tier juggernaut.
But
South Park on its own is arguably its own little juggernaut.
Yeah, because The Simpsons is constrained by its production value. South Park isn't.
No. They can honestly they can keep going forever. Like, I don't know what like Trey Parker and Matt Stone have like in their will to inherit this franchise too.
Oh,
like,
when they go, what happens to South Park?
I don't know, but as of now, like not only even with South Park, but like I yet to have seen their play The Book of Mormon. I've heard fantastic things. There's a movie they made in the 90s around this time South Park was just coming about. It was called Orgasmo.
Oh yeah,
it's basically
I've heard of it.
I recommend it.
Lyle has watched Orgasmo.
Has he? Oh, I was about to recommend it to him and you actually, but you still watch it.
I gotta check out Orgasmo.
It's basically Boogie Nights, but with the humor of South Park.
Okay,
it's great.
Yeah, I've heard of Orgasmo,
and it's been a while since I've seen Team America: World Police, even though that it is of its time of what was going on politically in the 2000s.
It was taking the piss out of the Patriot Act and post 9/11 American foreign policy.
I gotta watch it again to kind of get the specifics, but I will say that the puppeteer work is outstanding.
Do you know that Trey and Matt almost killed themselves to make that, because when they were in the middle of production, they completely underestimated the production logistics for the marionettes, and the production took like 10 times longer than it was supposed to. By the end of it, they wanted to die. Like, really? They were exhausted.
Actually, they were so exhausted from even making a South Park movie, because when they talk, like that episode that I said that came out right after the movie came out, Sexual Harassment Panda, in one of their commentaries for their DVD commentaries for that episode, they said, "We were so exhausted and stressed from the movie, we don't even remember making this episode."
I can believe it, and because they have burnt themselves out like crazy. And Lyle and I talked about this on the Family Guy episode, oddly enough. When they starred in a movie, Basketball. Have you seen Basketball?
We don't talk about Basketball.
By the way, Basketball. No. In South Park has mocked Basketball.
Yeah.
Do you know that? They initially took that. They took on that lame comedy Basketball because they thought, okay,
for a paycheck.
No, they wanted to expand their film careers, because they were secretly hoping South Park would be canceled and they can go do other things.
Really?
Nope. South Park got booked for another season, so they were stuck.
South Park became an instant a cultural icon.
They got stuck with a scheduling conflict that they had to go make South Park by night and shoot Basketball by day. So they burned them. I love Trey Parker and Matt Stone's creativity, but they burned themselves out too much.
They got both It's another crazy instance
So-
where they got two movie studios. They got both Paramount and Warner Brothers to distribute the South Park movie after 2.5 seasons of airtime.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Now,
that is fast.
Since this discussion started with the movie, do you feel like they could make a sequel to the South Park movie updated with today's current events, or? Because that was a pretty big. What stake would they have?
No, see, they're. I think they made the South Park movie at the perfect time, where like the Rugrats had their own movie around that time. Beavis and Butthead also had their movie. I think the whole movie thing is kind of, well, I mean, I know Bob's Burgers just did one recently.
They did,
I guess, but Amphibious and Firm Paw Patrol. Paw Patrol also did the same thing.
Right.
So I guess there's like a small little audience for like that. If you love the show so much, you'll see a bigger, like I mentioned it before, a bigger stakes of the show on a movie theatrical level.
Yeah.
As far as a sequel can go, I mean, like I said, like they're in the middle of like producing a lot of content for Paramount Plus of like specials. I think that's the way to go, because when you watch the post COVID and return of COVID and even the streaming wars, the stakes are relatively high as opposed to how the show was.
Yeah.
So they are taking it to another level, and the animation, I know that it's still sticking to, obviously, like that's what I love about what they've done with South Park throughout the years, is that they've still stuck to that, how it looked like when they were just using construction paper.
Yeah.
It's just front and center. If they walk away to frame left or right, it's side profile and it's just kind of jerky. Sometimes they'll probably do like a 360 motion where you'll see the side of their face.
Okay,
but like
on that note, you just made me think of a fun fact about Chef. You only see Chef.
Oh my god!
You see,
dude, I thought I was the only person who picked up on that.
You're not crazy. Chef, you
Veronica didn't want to believe me. I was like, no, Veronica, you don't see the side of Chef's face.
You never see Chef's side profile face. You only see side profile.
Thank you.
Okay, buddy.
I'm not crazy.
You're not crazy.
I'm the only person that noticed it.
Did you think it? Were you scared that there was a Mandela effect thing going on?
Yes.
No, you're not.
I swear,
you're not crazy.
I'm the only person.
You're not crazy. Even Channel Federator caught this. Like you see. The reason why it doesn't exist is simple. They never bothered to design a side profile of Chef's face. They've done a side profile of Chef's body, but not his face. Yeah.
That's so funny. But yeah, to answer your question, yeah, like sequel. Yeah, no, not a sequel that's connected. I mean, the South Park movie is its own thing, and the show will still live like it's. There's definitely an arguably a golden age to the show. That's the first run of it.
Yeah.
Of like the first 10 seasons. And I know I still got tons more to watch, but I am so fucking happy that like getting prepared for this discussion, I breezed through a lot of episodes, and you did as well.
Yeah.
I still want to keep going.
Same here.
I still want to keep going. The show is hilarious.
Do you know what? Like
it's crude, it's nasty, it's so offensive. But at the same time, it's not making a statement out of anything. It is doing one thing that we just need. They're making us laugh.
I love how they're
taking the piss out of everything.
It's nuance, and okay, you want I often talk when I often look at media, and I've been taught my whole career as a filmmaker, like since film school and since I was learning how to make movies, that everything has to have a tone. But I'm like, yeah, and the tone has to be consistent. And I've seen movies unfairly criticized for juggling tones. I'm like, a movie has to have tone, but when movies can juggle tones with it feeling seamless, that's impressive to me. South Park is one of the few shows that I know of that can juggle 5 different tones per episode and actually be engaging to me. Like, case in point, like with going back to the Asperger's episode, like it juggles, the concept of are we so listless that we not care about things because we're stuck in a simulation, or are we just sick of all this mainstream stuff that we're just going through the motions and like everything that we value is like over trounced by what's popular.
Yeah.
Like it also deals with, friends contemplating cutting each other off because of the negativity. Like, cause Kyle's like, Stan, I don't want to hang out with you anymore. Like, a personal note about me, Cody, I think I've mentioned this to you, like in our side conversations off mic. as a guy who like picks and chooses who I want to be friends with, it's very difficult for you to like trap if I consider you or anyone a friend, to fuck up a friendship with me, you would have to do something truly reprehensible to fuck up a friendship with me. But like but at the same time, I've been that friend who, like, in my past, who has been like, I'm sick of this person's negativity and I don't want to be around them anymore. But that was a younger me. A more mature me has learned to be patient and just learned to really, understand people. So that, in a weird way, like, I know that wasn't the main focus of the episode, but the fact that they touched upon it in the span of 22 minutes. And going back to what you're saying, like, about the return of the Fellowship of the Ring to the Two Towers, like, the fact that they were able to parody 9 hours, if you're including the extended versions of Lord of the Rings, you could squash it all down into 22 minutes and have it be just as good. That's impressive. So give the chef's kiss to South Park for being able to juggle tones. Like,
they oftentimes pull the rug out a lot.
That's brilliant too. Yeah. I love South Park. Okay,
and they are just genius at exaggerating everything.
Yeah,
like it's pure exaggeration.
Yeah, I mean, and when they exaggerate, if you're following current events, you know damn well what the reason is. Unlike Family Guy that just exaggerates for exaggeration's sake.
But here's one great thing that I'll say, and then maybe we'll wrap it up like pretty soon. Actually, we're going on a while. But like, even if you're not aware of the political situation that they're capping on, it almost like teaches you what that is. And then I oftentimes I went back and I did more research just to understand it. Like, okay, now I get it. Now I'm gonna go back to the episode and I laugh at it even more now that I got the context.
Yeah. That's kind of how that's what my stepdad actually helped me like understand like why the Windows 98 joke in the movie was so funny, because it's like because Windows 98 was
everyone laughed because they related to how frustrating it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. They're not just yeah.
Well, this has been fun.
It has been, yeah.
Yeah, no, this is. Yeah, no.
We had another television staple with our 80th or 90th
episode.
Yeah.
So, like, we've touched upon, like, Futurama, The Simpsons, SpongeBob, Family Guy, or Fucking Die, as you call it. So, when are we doing King of the Hill?
Well, that'll be you and Lyle. I still gotta watch that, actually.
Okay, you know what? Like, I feel like for, like, in somewhere in the 90th episode, like, we should get into King of the Hill and just talk about it. Because, like, that show means something to Lyle. And so, South Park The Simpsons means something to all of us. Family Guy... So, Lyle, with Family Guy, he stated on the Family Guy episode that he's more familiar with, like, classic Family Guy, like, the first couple of seasons.
Right.
Whereas I'm more of, like, anything post-revival. So, but I feel like so South Park was... you were like the only one in like the So to Speak family who like holds South Park close.
Yeah, I'm like a scattershot of random episodes.
Okay, well, like
you've
seen more than you see more than I have. So I got caught up in the span of a week, which is the amount of time it took me to get caught up for this discussion is about the same amount of time it takes to make an episode of South Park. So I found that pretty clever. So so for maybe like in the time between
I got into Futurama at a great time where like after I finished they're like, okay, let's talk about Futurama. So I'm like, okay, I'm a newbie to all this.
So I feel like we should just for at some point between now and the time we reach 100 episodes, let's try and work in a King of the Hill episode just so that Lyle can introduce us to this show.
Yeah, whatever you guys want to do. Yeah. I'll try to roll with it.
Let's try it, King of the Hill. So anyways,
screw you guys, I'm going home.